It is 6 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You're waking up in the greatest country in history. Let's get to work. We've got a whole show planned for you. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. We've got coming up here, we're going to be talking the fire, which is just wild. I mean, compared to how cold it is in Colorado today, the folks out in California, I saw this, that the flames are moving 2 to 3 football fields a minute. That's how fast. Jeez. This is 100-mile-an-hour winds that are blowing these Santa Ana winds. These are warm winds that blew into California. I went to college in California. Remember these? They're very weird. It's like 70 degree winds. And then when it's blowing this fast, 100 miles an hour, yeah, these fires are huge. I've posted on my X account maps from the LA Times of these fires. So if you want to see where they're burning, and there's 4 of them. There's the Palisades, the Eaton, the Hearst, and the Tyler fires. And so they're kind of across Los Angeles in mostly the kind of wooded areas, not the high density populations, but they are having to evacuate, places near Pasadena, California, for instance. But it's kind of up in the hills where these things are primarily burning. And then in between Los Angeles and Malibu, that section along the Pacific Coast Highway, mandatory evacuations, big fires. But now firefighters are reporting, and this is coming from the LA Times, that the hydrants are running out of water. Yeah, so this thing is 0% contained. Please be praying for all the people affected by this, because it is, this reminds me of what we saw in Maui, where it's just consumes, and they can't stop it, and it just goes from house to house to house. And these guys are doing their best up there, these firefighters, but holy cow.
This is scary. Yeah, this is a very scary one. And isn't it supposed to be the rainy season though at this time too? I know they're going through a bit of a drought, but it should be rainy season, because Santa Ana winds, and then you're right. During this time because we're in January. And so it's their winter. Mm-hmm. So it should be rainy and wet at this time too, which I think is another bit of a problem. But we'll get into Trump's press conference yesterday. I also want to cover this wild Billy Bush interview with Billy Bush and Tucker Carlson, where you get the kind of behind the scenes on that Access Hollywood tape that was released back in 2016. Remember that? Donald Trump, Billy Bush on the Access Hollywood bus. All those details were released in a conversation between him and Tucker Carlson. We'll get into that. Kathleen Sgamma, president of the Western Energy Alliance, is going to be joining us in the 8 o'clock hour to talk Biden's oil and gas drilling ban and what that's going to mean for Colorado as well. And then, dude, we're upping our game, seriously, in the 9 o'clock hour. Like, we don't normally get stars this big. No, we don't.
Kathy Sabine's going to join us.
Yeah. You didn't tell her I was on the show, and that's why she joined.
She is the Grand Marshal of the 2025 National Western Stock Show Kickoff Parade, which is tomorrow. She was a barrel racer. Did you know?
Oh, really? No, I had no idea.
She was a barrel racer.
Wow.
In the rodeo.
That's really cool.
We're all kind of starstruck that we have such talent joining us in the 9
That'll be really cool.
Hour.
That'll be neat.
So Kathy Sabine talking about the upcoming National Western Stock Show. So lots to cover today, but most importantly, your phone calls and texts. So give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Let's check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. It is a hump day.
But Blake, I got to ask, you were closer to the Marshall Fire than the rest of us were. weren't you?
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, it was more, it didn't really affect us that much. I mean, you could see it well. I remember 2 or 3 years ago, that summer of fires, man. I don't think it's ever been that bad. I feel, I don't know. This past summer, you could see a lot of them, but you couldn't, it didn't affect your breathing like it did 2 or 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
I was a river guide up in Buena Vista in 2002 when we had the 100-year drought.
Yeah.
And all those fires as well. And I remember waking up in the morning with ash on our cars. And that was when,
oh man,
Governor Owens said the whole state was on fire.
God, it's so frightening when you see the flames and the firefighters. My oldest brother used to fight those things, and God bless him and all the heroes who fight those things, man. If we didn't have them, I don't know what would happen. Well, we burn. Everything would burn, but it's pretty amazing. So hopefully they can get this under control in Southern California. It is 9 degrees here in Denver and Colorado, clear and freezing. Take it slow on the roads this morning until that ice kind of melts as the sun comes up. We're expecting a high of 41 today. That's what's beautiful about Colorado. It'll be 41 today, but it'll feel like 51 because the sun will be out and the sky will be blue. Multiple life-threatening wildfires burning across Southern California, as Jeff and Billy mentioning, and made for an extremely dangerous night. The first fire erupted Tuesday afternoon and quickly spread to the Pacific Palisades neighborhood near LA, forcing more than 30,000 people to evacuate, including movie stars and personalities. I think the Kardashians, Khloe Kardashian, Mark Hamill from Star Wars, just to name a few. California Governor Gavin Newsom has declared a state of emergency, and President Biden has been briefed on the situation. Police in Aurora looking for 2 men after a deadly shooting early Tuesday. Investigators say the suspects entered an apartment on East Jewel around 6:15 in the morning and fought with the family inside. Shots were fired and a 16-year-old girl died after being taken to the hospital. No one else was injured. Investigators are still trying to determine if there was a prior relationship between the suspects and the family. Police now say the Springs man who blew up a Tesla Cybertruck in Las Vegas on New Year's Day used AI to plan the attack. Assistant Sheriff Dory Corin of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department says a search history shows Matthew Livelsberger used ChatGPT to find information on how to carry out his plan.
He's trying to figure out where to buy fireworks and how much of it to buy. He looks at the equivalence of those fireworks and how they compare to TNT and other types of explosive material. He also says that he has graphic encounters from his military experience that replay in his head over and over, and that now he feels like he's a shell of a human being with nothing to live for.
Police say the U.S. Army Green Beret fatally shot himself before the truck exploded outside the Trump International Hotel. They add that a 6-page manifesto extracted from his phone was seen, and they observed, recorded. Livelsberger mentioned political and social grievances and said that graphic encounters from his military experience replayed in his head, making him feel like a shell, once again, of a human being, as you just heard. The FBI is confirming the discovery of a cooler and sulfuric acid inside a storage unit reportedly rented by the New Orleans terrorist. FBI agents and Harris County deputies investigated a storage unit on Monday night, finding commercially available bottles of sulfuric acid in a cooler similar to the one near the scene of the Bourbon Street attack. The nation's capital is paying respect to America's 39th president. The remains of Jimmy Carter were taken from Atlanta to the U.S. Capitol on Tuesday. DJT with the surprise news conference Tuesday, one of my favorite parts.
We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
Yes.
I thought that was awesome.
Wasn't that great?
I loved it. I wanted to hear what Billy had to say
man.
about it.
Oh, I'm sure Billy.
Bill, what do you
hated
think
that.
about the new Gulf of America?
Yeah, and
I mean, do you like it? Or are you just kind of like, okay, shrug, move on?
what's the point? I'm the only thing I'm looking at is, where was that in the last election cycle? Where is that as far as the things that we need to help make America great again? We need to rename a body of water, really? And the other part is, we can decide to call it that, but that doesn't mean the rest of the world calls it that. We can call Russia Putinstania. Doesn't mean the rest of the world is going to do that. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's completely and totally irrelevant. And I was surprised how many people in the media made a big deal about it. To me, it's a distraction. It's nothing, and also remarkably stupid. It doesn't matter.
Do you feel the same way when we like rename Mount Evans and Mount McKinley and all this?
Well, here's the thing: is what's the reasoning behind that? And also, those are inside the contiguous U.S. We're talking about a body of water that is outside the U.S. that shares, a coast with other nations. Okay, if we wanted to do that and go start naming other landmarks in other countries, that's kind of what we're doing here. The fact that we can name whatever we want in our country, fine. That's different than renaming a body of water that is outside the contiguous borders of the U.S. and shares borders with other nations. It's just stupid. But fine, he can go ahead and do it. I just don't care. I know, but that's the thing is, you remember
the branding.
Oh yeah, remember?
I do too.
I know, but here's the idea: it's the branding thing, but nobody else has to use the name. It's not branding. It's just you're deciding to call them freedom fries. Yay. I mean, this literally is probably the dumbest thing I've heard since freedom fries. It is phenomenally obtuse, ridiculously stupid. And you remember when we talked about the idea of authoritarians and fascism and stuff like that earlier on before who else does this? China. China does this all the time and says, this is now our territory. We're naming it this. Yeah, Russia and China. Huh. That's weird. That's really weird. That's really strange that he's not even in office yet. And yet he's taking on mannerisms, characteristics, and behaviors of the authoritarians. That's strange. Shocking. Except for the people that listen to this show.
So who named the Gulf of Mexico? Here's an article on it. Well, existing residents obviously knew about it. The first Europeans to find the Gulf was Sebastian de Ocampo in 1508 to 1509, according to the Texas State Historical Association. It remained unnamed until the early 1540s, considered part of the North Sea, Atlantic Ocean. One map dated 1584 called it Mer del Nord, or Sea of the North. Baptiste Beazio, the illustrator and map maker of Francis Drake's Caribbean cruise of attacks in the 1580s, used Gulf of Mexico on his map. View of entire route of Sir Francis Drake's West Indian voyage. A 1630 map called the body of water the Gulf of New Spain. The Spanish name evolved into Cieno Mexicano, Cieno meaning Gulf or Bay. It has also been called Golfo de Nuevo España and Golfo de Mexico on various maps and documents. And there are at least 32 different versions of the name in different languages and dialects. I see this as America being proud of its history, of its role in the world, and we're proud to call it the Gulf of America now.
Yeah. So it's all about ego.
Okay. Oh, 100% about ego.
Cool. Yeah,
yes.
and you know the rest of the world doesn't have to play along. That's cool. So we just get to call it somebody else. No, they won't. Well,
they will.
No, they won't. Why would they?
Because we're America, baby.
Depends how many times you say it. I like it.
No,
it's just like
Why would they?
like Mile High Stadium. I've never said
they?
the corporate names of the stadium, the old one and the new one. It's always Mile High.
But then again, I understand why this is a top line priority. You know, he didn't solve the housing problem yesterday. He didn't bring energy prices down. He said he could settle the Ukraine-Russia war in 24 hours. Huh. That didn't happen. But now we're changing the name of a body of water. Wow.
I love it.
We're making America great again.
Well, you don't have to
Yeah.
call it
What?
that if you don't want to. You can call it Gulf of Mexico, but he says, "Hey, we're gonna change it to Gulf of America." Same thing.
Great. Let's change all the planets to name them after Trump's family members too. As long as we're being stupid about it.
Speaking
Fine.
of Greenland,
And just dumb as hell.
Yeah, Donald Trump Jr.
Yeah, he was in the plane. We'll do that in a couple hours. I don't have that right now. But how about Panama? Here's what he has to say about the Panama Canal.
The Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China.
That's not true.
And we gave the Panama Canal
I
to
think
Panama.
So.
We didn't give it to
It's
China.
not true. It's
And
just
they've
flat out not
abused
true.
it. They've abused that gift. It should have never been made, by the way. Giving the Panama Canal is why Jimmy Carter lost the election, in my opinion, more so maybe than the hostages. The hostages were a big deal. But if you remember,
That's also
nobody
not
wants
true.
to talk about the Panama Canal now because, it's inappropriate, I guess, but because it's a bad part of the Carter legacy. But he was a good man. Look, he was a good man. I knew him a little bit, and he was a very fine person. But that was a big mistake. Giving the Panama Canal to Panama was a very big mistake.
Huh?
China's not running the Panama Canal, so his premise is wrong.
Well, so
110%.
you have two ports, major ports on either side of the Panama Canal that are owned by Chinese companies.
Yeah.
And they're at the entrance and the exit on both sides of the Panama Canal. Now, the actual people that operate the canal, yes, those are Panamanians.
Yeah.
But to say that it's totally false that China has no impact on the canal is not right either.
No. But what did Donald Trump say? He said they're running it. They're not running the canal. That was his premise.
They're
not running the canal.
You can't say that they're not either because they own two major ports on either side of the
Yes,
canal.
you can because they do not control.
You're saying
Hang on.
the place in between where the actual people
I'm
manage
saying,
it. is
I'm
run
saying,
by
no, I'm
Panamanians.
saying they don't control traffic going in and out of the canal. They have no control over that. They don't run the canal. They can't shut the canal down and say, sorry, no American boats today. They can't do that. They don't control the canal.
But you also
the more
can't say
important
they have
part,
no influence over it.
I never said they had no influence. He said they control it. And I said he was wrong. That's where I'm planting my flag. His words were they control it. That's not true. End of
I think
statement.
it's not true to say they don't control it when they have some control over it.
No, they don't.
I think they do because because businesses in China are, as long as they're from China, they're involved with the government.
Mm-hmm.
No,
right?
No.
I mean, you don't think you think it's a free market like we have here?
No. See what you're doing. Like what you're doing is you're saying because China owns a port there, China obviously has influence on the government. And if that's true,
yes.
China has a giant manufacturing facility in Wisconsin. How much influence do they have over the American government?
Not a lot, but they
wait,
definitely
hang on a second.
You can't say
well,
that.
actually, right now they have a lot.
Where is it? No, I understand the funny, the funny haha here. But that's what we're talking about is the idea that he said they control, they don't control it. He's not correct on that point. The other part that's more important in that is he said it's vital to national security, so we need to have it back. That's really weird because that's the same premise that Putin offered for Ukraine as far as why he had to invade. And he offered a bogus reason as well.
Trump's going to invade Panama?
He has said it. He said it's a possibility.
But do you think he really is going to?
No, because I don't think
so either.
I don't think the military. I don't think the military would allow him to do it.
I don't think the American people want an invasion. No. I think what you're getting is negotiations over the cost of running a ship through the canal.
Wait,
and Trump wanting to lower that.
Hang on a sec. Really? We're worried about the multi-billion-dollar shipping companies and how much they're paying to move cargo through the Panama Canal. Do we have any idea how much it costs? Do we have any idea how much it costs to run a per ton through the Panama Canal versus what it costs when it started?
I'll tell you, I know that.
That's just because the time value of money. That's all that happens. So what does it cost right now, roughly?
Panama's raising it because they're dealing with economic issues.
What does it cost, though? That's not my question.
What is it?
It's roughly around $10 per ton. What was it when it started out?
I don't know.
About $1.40. That means that over the time value of money, it is ridiculously inexpensive to get through the Panama Canal. If the value would have risen the same way it normally does over the arc of time, it would be running us somewhere around $30 to $40 per ton to run through the Panama Canal if it increased,
but it's going
as
up.
it should.
And that's going to be passed on to the consumer.
If it increased at the same rate things normally do, they'd be paying $30 to $40. Then you've got an issue. At $10 a ton, it is vastly undervalued based on what they could charge for the market. It is a steal. They are practically giving it away for you to run through there. They're not looking to make revenue off of it. The whole idea that it's too expensive to run cargo through Panama Canal is bogus on its face, because you can just look at how much the cost has increased from when it opened to where it is now versus other costs of goods and services.
But Bill,
it doesn't even come close to keeping up.
You're making the argument that because it doesn't match inflation, therefore the business should be appreciative of the fact that they're getting not being charged as much, but I understand it's going up, but at least it's not the cost of inflation.
Yes,
this is still costing businesses in America, and Donald Trump is negotiating on behalf of those businesses.
Multi-billion-dollar shipping companies, they're not hurting to scratch two pennies together. And again, they're getting something that is a tremendous value. Is Donald Trump worried about bringing our housing prices back to that same level? No. Is he worried about is he going to bring energy prices back to that level? No. Is he bringing our grocery store prices back to that level? No. Is he bringing health insurance prices to that level? No. But he's concerned about a multi-billion-dollar shipping company that is already getting a steal of a deal to move shipping through Panama. This is stupid.
It is not. This is the president of the United States negotiating on behalf of American businesses to represent their interests in a canal that we built, paid to build, and and should be given a deal to the Americans on it.
They already are giving you a deal. You're paying $10 a ton. You should be paying $30 to $40. You're already getting a tremendous deal. Yeah, we're going to have to deal with 4 years of this crap. This is going to be maddening, because this is phenomenally stupid. It is a ridiculous deal. They are getting a sweetheart deal, and they're still complaining about it, and they're making money hand over fist. Excuse me while I pull up my world's smallest violin while I play a concerto. I give a crap. It is such a pile of crap that he's talking about this. He doesn't talk about the economics. He has no clue. About this.
It's one of the 1,000 things he's talking about, so I think it'll work out well.
I mean, the alternative is Joe Biden just shrugging and going, well, charge us whatever you want.
Do whatever you want to do. Yeah, I love it. I thought the press conference was great. We'll hear more, and I'm sure Jeff and Billy have more coming up on that. Peter Yarrow of Peter, Paul, and Mary has passed away. He reportedly died of bladder cancer at his home in New York City. The 1960s folk trio, they were instrumental in helping popularize the work of Bob Dylan. Yarrow was 86. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. Celtics beat the Nuggets last night, 118-106. It is 6 in Arvada, 7 in Englewood, 9 in Denver, and it'll all change when the sun comes up this morning. It's Wednesday, and it's cold. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
We're under a winter weather advisory through noon. It'll be mostly cloudy with periods of light snow, mainly here in the morning hours. Watch for slick roads. Any additional accumulations will be light. Highs only 20s. Be ready for a cold night tonight in the upper single digits. Watch for fog. Wednesday, sunny, 30s, teens Wednesday night, mostly cloudy. We may see another chance of light snow again with another front during the day Thursday and continued cold. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking Trump and the Gulf of America, as well as the Panama Canal. Let's go to the phone lines. Tony Littleton. Good morning, Tony. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
So I've been listening to the argument, and you perceive this as America showing its strength. And this, if anything, is an embarrassment to America. This is showing we no longer care about leadership. It becomes a game of we're just another bully on the block. Putin's a bully. She is a bully. Now Trump is saying we're going to play like a bully.
What are we bullying? Who are we bullying?
Well, Trump is. Well, Billy was right. He's throwing out a bunch of shiny objects that excite you, because he's not addressing the major issues that he ran on.
Don't change the subject, Tony. Who are we bullying?
Greenland, he's bullying. Panama, he's bullying.
I saw a video yesterday. They're very happy to see Trump Jr. up there.
I guarantee you, the governments of are not happy with the tone coming out of Trump, as well as Musk saying the people should overthrow the tyrannical government of Great Britain. These things are absurd. But
Denmark?
let me make the point. Trump makes a case that Greenland and Panama are important to our national security and economic security, and there's a point there. There is a point there. I would agree with it. But that doesn't mean that the answer is to either use economic clout or use military clout to go get your way. If we were to do that, China can make a very good case that Japan is important to their national security, and they're going to take it. However, they have to
Taiwan.
take it.
Add Taiwan into that too.
Economic and military clout, just I'm writing this down, Tony, what you said, just taking and doing their way. So we'll allow Russia and China to do that, and America will do what?
No, so they're not using economic. They're not using economic and military clout. They're using soft power to try to influence
China and
the
Russia
globe.
are not using economic and military clout.
China and Russia. They're not attacking Panama. They're not threatening to attack Panama.
Taiwan,
China just
Ukraine.
built a huge port in Lima, Peru. You've maybe heard about that. Maybe the largest port in all of the Americas was built by China. When we walk away from leadership, China is happy to fill the void. They're happy to fill the void.
In the last 4 years.
Don't anything but.
Really? You think Joe Biden was leading on the international stage?
Listen, Joe Biden put on a clinic in using soft power to influence what's gone on in Ukraine. No military,
soft power.
Soft power. He used economic clout, diplomacy. Don't laugh.
No,
don't laugh.
I am laughing at the idea that it's soft
You don't
power in
understand
Ukraine.
it well enough
We're
to know. You don't understand it well enough to know.
Shipping weapons to Ukraine. It's not
That's soft power. That's soft power. We did not send in military. Pardon me?
You said building ports was soft power.
They both are. They both are classified as that.
They're
providing aid, weapons, building things. Those are all classified as soft power.
Investment, diplomacy, military support, short of sending
and Tony,
soldiers
in your mind, you think the last 4 years have been a great example of American might on the international stage using soft power?
I'm just going to use
one example. I'm going to use one example, and that is Ukraine. We used every bit of the soft power, all the types of soft power that we have to influence, to support Ukraine, and to get all of Europe behind us, and the Eastern Rim of Western democracies behind us in sanctioning Russia. And now Russia's having a hell of a time trying to take Ukraine.
Did we have to do that, you think?
Yes.
You don't think this could have been negotiated?
You know what? In fact, this kind of ties to Carter.
You think the billions of dollars spent were better than having a conversation?
They were not having a conversation.
Really?
They were
Russia said they were willing to talk and negotiate
before not until after they invaded.
But why don't we negotiate now? Why couldn't Joe Biden, in all his brilliance,
let me make this point because it's relevant and it's current. Carter died. He is the last president to have served in World War II. Every single president from Eisenhower to H.W. Bush served in World War II. All those presidents, along with the two that ran it, FDR and Truman, along with 4 of the 5 boomers that followed, understand the importance for America to take leadership on the world stage. Trump is the first one who does not understand that. And now let me finish this point.
You don't think that he's taken leadership?
NATO has been strengthened dramatically because
of Trump.
Under Biden, Trump. 2 more countries have come aboard.
Trump eroded NATO.
No, he didn't. Trump got these other countries
he eroded
to pay
more. He eroded the NATO.
You make stuff up. It's almost embarrassing.
I don't make stuff up. He got countries to pay more. That's a fact.
No, NATO. You know what? Obama put heat on them. Trump put heat on them. But the biggest gains were made under Biden. Those are facts. Those are the facts. All those countries, I swear to you now, they desperately wish Biden was going on. As lame as you think he is,
they wish
they
don't have
were
to
still
pay
the leader.
As much.
It's no. They sacrifice. What other sacrifices have they made that you're not aware?
Tell me about the great sacrifices of France and Germany and Ukraine.
The NATO countries sacrificed 2 things that Biden, our government, acknowledges. One, they cut off cheap oil to themselves from Russia and are paying that price.
Yeah.
And we're trying to replace it. And we are filling in, and we're getting natural gas to them.
Another
Other
reason to
countries are coming in to
negotiate.
supply them, but they took a personal hit by cutting off gas so Russia wouldn't have the revenue. 1, 2, they're hosting millions of Ukrainians, and you don't hear them bitching about hosting Ukrainians that have been pushed out, the women and the children and the old people. So they're paying a price beyond what they're investing.
In my mind, Tony, all the reason more to figure this out and negotiate. All right, Tony, appreciate the call. We just got full lines. We got to get to all of them. Tony's line will be open 303-696-1971. We're dancing all around. Let's go back to Panama Canal, okay? So here's what's happened in the Panama Canal. All countries are charged the same rate no matter what goes through, okay? But the United States uses the Panama Canal more than any other country because it saves 25 days on a cargo ship that doesn't have to go all the way down to the coast around South America and then back up. So it's really, really important to do that. Now, Panama Canal implemented a new auction system. The traditional price to get a cargo ship based upon size through the Panama Canal was somewhere between $60,000 and $300,000. With most larger container vessels paying over $100,000 per crossing. But due to some recent drought conditions, they now implemented this auction so you could jump the line, get through the canal a little bit quicker if you wanted to. But these ships were paying as much as $4 million in order to jump. As a result of that, many ships now doing the 25-day extended trip around. That increases costs on everything. And from my perspective, Donald Trump is right to press the Panama Canal to figure this out, not be charging $4 million to get through the canal in a timely fashion. And they've got to figure it out. And going all the way around the tip of South America is not right. Let's go to the phone lines. Rob. Good morning, Rob. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Good morning, Jeff and Bill. And Bill, I want to give you kudos. I don't agree with you very often. I think you and I could find consensus that the sky is usually blue and that we do get some snow here in Colorado. But other than that, sometimes your dedication to being the fella that's trying to be the provocateur, perhaps, of the discussion kind of gets you out far to field, I think. But I do appreciate a lot of your insight, and you do balance the show. As to the Panama Canal, I'm young enough to remember, or old enough at this point, to remember when I was young and President Carter gave it away. And even though I was young, I thought, what are we doing? It just didn't make sense that we would cede any of the influence that we had to the extent that we'd had up to that point, since we had built it, the many thousands of people that lost their lives that were Americans that went down there to build it because of disease, etc., lost their lives, and we created something good for the world. And I would hope that objectively you would say overall, in spite of perhaps our imperfections as a nation, which we exhibit on occasion, like the last 4 years under Biden, but that's a different story, but that we would agree that basically it's better when the Americans are directly involved in something. We create more good for the world in spite of some of the flaws that we exhibit in policy. And I just think that the whole idea of President Trump creating all this discussion, I sat down last night and watched most of his news conference again yesterday, and it's actually very insightful to me to watch him deal with different issues off the cuff and how the press pushes him, and yet he creates all this media firestorm about stuff, but it's just common sense stuff that we've kind of avoided as a nation with the deep state and the resident bureaucrats that reside in DC and create policy. And I just have a real issue with us getting so excited about him pushing to make Panama more of an American interest again. We did put the blood, sweat, and tears in to build the canal and to create the thing that it is. And I do think that we should have an outsized hand in the way that it's run. And when the Chinese are involved, they do perhaps perhaps some good, like Tony's pointing out the port in Peru. But I wouldn't think that they expect that that's just a charitable gesture. There's going to be heavy-handed political and financial pressure put on the people in Peru, I'm sure, when the time is right, to where they're going to get their money back.
Rob, what do you do with Japan? Should Japan become the U.S. 51st state? And the reason I'm asking that, and Rob, the reason I'm asking that is because you talked about the idea of loss of life and time and investment that America had, and then America putting the country back together, and it's better when America is involved. Same thing happened during World War II. The entire reason that America got involved, and then afterwards is the reason that the Japanese went down to their knees, and then we spent American treasure and time helping rebuild their country. Same thing, man.
Correct.
So we could take Japan too. That's the issue. That's why this is a farce that is built upon wishes, dreams, and kitten tears. It is ridiculous on its face. We've been involved in the Panama Canal since Jump Street, and we do military exercises with them. We check in with them economically. We are very involved with it. We've been running for more than 25 years, I believe. We've been running mutual military exercises down there to defend the Panama Canal. We are very, very involved. I disagree with the idea that this is something that we have necessarily. I understand the idea of it giving away, but I think that we don't want to have America down there having to quote unquote run the Panama Canal all the time. And to Jeff's point, Rob, I appreciate the phone call. We got to jump here in a second. And to Jeff's point about them, have charging so people can jump the line. That's what Disney does. We do it here with express tolls. We do it all the time. We have TSA screenings that do that. And now America thinks that's a bad idea. I disagree. Yeah. That's how we function all the time. They're using our system and a system that works all the time that we take advantage of, and now we're bitching and moaning about it. I'm sorry. Again, I'm going to go get my violin, and I'm going to play a little bit during this commercial break.
It increases the cost on all of our goods, and the president's negotiating on behalf of the American people and American businesses. I don't see it as a bad thing.
How does it increase our cost? They don't have to pay to jump the line. They can do it if they want. That's on the shipping company. That's on the shipping company.
And you sit there and you allow all these other ships to go because you're going to pay the standard rate.
Yeah.
Well, you're just going to have to pay staff more. Your goods are going to get there slower. Of course, it's going to increase the cost.
But you were saying that it was this huge thing. So the business has got to balance that out. Which one is going to cost them more? Sitting there, or are they going to have to pay the extra money to get through? That's a business decision.
Right.
They get to make it. Good job. Yes, make the business decision.
It is costing Americans more. I don't blame the president for wanting to prioritize the American people and try to negotiate a better deal for them. All right, we'll listen to your calls. You Choose the News is coming up. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We kicked it up. Lines, lots of text messages. We are talking Trump and the Gulf of America and the Panama Canal and Greenland and Ukraine and all the other stuff. So, but let's take a moment for a little bit of levity with crowd favorites. You choose the news.
Yes, it is time for us to be irresponsible with our valuable airtime. It's something we call You Choose the News, America's favorite fake radio news game show. I have spent just moments this morning scouring the interwebs in this ice-cold studio to find stories about us humans and give them more ridiculous headlines to play this fake radio news game. Why? Because nobody in charge wakes us up for about another 9 minutes. So we are going to take full advantage of being left unsupervised. Alrighty. Gentlemen, Jeff Hunt in the studio, Blake Olson in the newsroom. Here are your stories this morning, sirs. Headline number 1, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Headline number 2, helpful technological innovation. Headline number 3, don't tell the insurance companies. And headline number 4, sweet, sweet protest.
In light of the fires, don't tell the insurance companies.
Yeah, don't tell the insurance companies. Wait until they find out about this move. People living in Belcastro, Italy, have been ordered to not get sick. People living in Belcastro have been ordered by the government to avoid contracting any illness that may require emergency medical assistance. It's a decree from the local mayor. Didn't make you do that. Now it is
socialized medicine.
It is a little tongue in cheek, but the issue is because they don't necessarily have access to a doctor all the time. The village's on-call doctor is only open sporadically and offers no coverage during weekends, holidays, or even after hours. The way that you can get to the easiest emergency room is around 45 minutes away.
Panama Canal.
Driving. So that's about the way you can do it. So the issue is they say that they are encouraging older residents because a majority of the residents in the city are over the age of 65. They say do not engage in behaviors that may be harmful and avoid domestic accidents. Do not leave the house too often and do not travel. Do not practice sports. A whole bunch of other stuff here. So they said rest the majority of the time. They just outlawed being sick. Didn't know that was a thing. Didn't know. Wait until Dr. Oz and RFK Jr. find out about that.
Yeah, people start going back to church for the healing.
Yeah, yes. Oh, yeah, that has worked out well, too. Okay. Now, second choice this morning. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, helpful technological innovation, or a sweet, sweet protest.
Sweet, sweet protest.
Sweet, sweet protest. Yes, we are going to South Korea for this one. According to a report by a major convenience store chain, sale of Hershey's Kisses are going gangbusters inside of South Korea. It's up by nearly 10% week over week. But why? Back on January 5th, protesters gathered in front of their current president's residence and called for his arrest. The group earned the nickname the Kisses Protesters because of their appearance. It was really, really cold, and they wrapped themselves in those silver thermal blankets that NASA uses to avoid the freezing temperatures. So they had a bunch of silver protesters out in front of the president's house, and they looked like a bunch of Hershey's Kisses. And so since then, in order to show your solidarity with the protesters, people are buying Hershey's Kisses.
That's awesome.
At an increased rate. I think
it's all about branding.
Yes, it is.
I thought it was the Hunt House because those Hershey Kisses over the Christmas holidays, like the peppermint and the cookies and cream. Dude, we probably account for 30% of the sales.
Oh, that's
in
funny.
The state.
Oh, that's fantastic. What is in the Hunt household? What is the favorite Christmas
cookies
candy?
And cream?
Yeah, cookies and cream
on the kisses.
Yeah,
because they got peppermint, they got hot chocolate, and marshmallows, all that good stuff.
In the Olsen household, what's the favorite Hershey's Kiss?
Straight chocolate.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, I do straight chocolate too because
how about you guys?
I do our house straight chocolate because the flavored things are nice, but I feel like they're just sometimes it just doesn't hit the same way.
And just melt in your mouth.
Yeah, and I hate that
chocolate.
I hate that almond in the middle there. That's just
awful.
No,
that's awful.
Yeah,
we were watching some friends' dogs, and they gifted us Vienna chocolate.
Oh wow, that's nice. That is really good. It's got to get the dark chocolate, though. Okay, here we go. Final choice this morning, sir. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery or helpful technological innovation?
Insincere flattery, please.
Yeah, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Microsoft would really like you to use Bing. Pretty please. Can you just use Bing?
You get a new computer, they hammer you with it.
Yes, it's installed in all sorts of Windows products, but nobody's using Bing. In fact, the primary search on Bing is for Google. So Microsoft has decided to do something else. If you go onto Bing, you can try this today. I've been seeing it for the last couple of days, and you search for Google, Windows pulls up a fake Google search page. It looks like Google. They've got the little graphic. It goes all white, and it has a little picture at the top and gives you a search bar. It's aping Google. The kicker is, it only appears if you search for Google or Google Voice. You search for anything else, Bing does its regular job. But if you search for Google, the page that Bing gives you pretends to be Google.
Yeah, that's going to be sued over.
Yeah. All right, that's it. That's the end of KUSA News. Back to you, sir.
What was it that they used to also push on everything? I'm trying to remember. Windows used to always do that. But anyways, you're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is KNUS.
It is 7 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You're heading to work in the greatest country in history. I know it's cold, but God, thankfully, we are not having to deal with what the people in California are dealing with. It is terrible out there. If you haven't seen the videos yet, they are facing tremendous destruction in Los Angeles with 4 fires, the Palisades, East, Eaton, Hearst, and Tyler fires. And it was burning at one point 2 to 3 football fields a minute with 100-mile-an-hour winds there. So take a moment this morning. Please pray for those in the Los Angeles area that are affected by these wildfires. Pray that it can get put out here quickly. Reports coming in, the LA Times reporting that now firefighters are running out of water out of the hydrants to be able to fight these. So those brave men and women on the front lines, God bless them. Please, please, again, say a prayer for them. We're discussing a whole lot today, everything from the Gulf of America to the Panama Canal. In a minute, we're going to get to Billy Bush and Tucker Carlson's discussion on what really happened with that Access Hollywood tape, which was fascinating. Let's go back to the phone lines before we get to the news and comment. Joe Arvada. Good morning, Joe. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Good morning, Jeff, Billy. Before I comment on President Trump's genius press conference, I'd like to give you a little joke here. President Carter is lying in state. But did you know that after he lies in state, he's going to go get retrofitted with AI and become the deep state candidate for 2028?
Combination with CES. Watching all the tech stuff there.
Slogans. 4 years at Bernie's.
I feel like we already just lived through that.
Oh, that's true. Okay. So President Trump, just for you liberals out there, you just witnessed real genius at work. And let me just say this, this is all the takes that are going on is just pure, just sugary sweet to all conservatives right now. We just love listening to this. This is the same kind of hand-wringing that was done before President Reagan took command. And it is exactly what President Trump loves, I think. And anybody that has predicted President Trump's 4 years coming, we are just lathering in it. It's fabulous. Go for liberals, go read Atlas Shrugged. You always tell us what to read and we get this liberal tripe. Please go read Ayn Rand and find out what true genius is about. The ideas submitted in that press conference was more than Joe Biden's entire life.
Does it matter, Joe? Does it matter, Joe, that a handful of those ideas were on face just absolutely stupid? I mean, shouldn't that matter at least a little bit?
Only to you, Billy. Only to you, brother.
No, Joe. On the face, they're stupid. The ideas are really
Tony
dumb.
and Littleton too. Oh, sorry, shouldn't have mentioned his name.
But Joe, I mean, renaming it to the Gulf of America is on its face very stupid. The idea of trying to take over the Panama Canal
and
is also
where
stupid.
You know what you told me was stupid? President Trump was going to be our next president.
Oh,
remember?
Yeah, I was wrong about that.
You guys told me. Wait a minute. You told me also that Liz Cheney was going to be emblematic of our future Republican Party.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that about Liz Cheney because she was kicked out.
There was indications.
Yeah, people could, but
it.
no, I knew she was kicked out of the party. She was going to be an apostate. But but the
please.
idea,
she's a coffee girl at CNN now.
But the idea that naming it Gulf of America, it's on its face stupid. I mean, it's a dumb issue.
And here's what you miss.
Okay, please explain it to me.
This is what true genius does.
Yeah,
is they blow up the minds of the idiots. And let me just say this. the idea that it was named Gulf of Mexico, no, that was the actual, wrongness because of this reason. Once America took over, and that's what we did, we took over, then the labels should change. Just like Ukraine. Was Ukraine always Ukraine? No. And what does Ukraine mean? Billy, I've told you about 5 times. What does Ukraine mean?
I don't know, nor am I. Why is it germane to this conversation?
You never do remember.
No,
here's what it means:
it
borderland.
I know,
it means borderland.
Yeah,
and it was named by the Russians.
Yeah.
It was named by the Russians. Now, let me ask you a question. What happened to Bagram Airport? What happened to Bagram Airfield?
Joe, this is a really fun.
This is a great question.
Hang on. No, Joe, this is a really fun.
Goodness.
No, Joe, this is a really, really fun thing. Let me ask you questions. No. The issue is it is irrelevant.
What
back
happened
to
Bagram Airfield? No, it isn't. The
Yes,
Panama Canal. The
Yes,
Panama
it's irrelevant.
Canal.
Yes.
But just a second. The Panama Canal
Yes.
is being taken over by the Chinese.
Yes,
what
that's not
do you
happening.
not understand?
Yeah, that's not happening, but that's okay. You can tell yourself that all
that's
your time.
what liberals do. When they can't answer, they stick their heads in the ground like an ostrich.
No, I'm telling you, no, they're not taking over. They don't run the Panama Canal. Donald Trump's wrong about that.
Well, they took over Bagram Airfield.
The Chinese or the Panamanians?
Yes, the Chinese.
Okay. And
did
they name it? Did they name it the
because
China? Did they name it the China Air Base?
Liberal that ceded it to him, just like Jimmy Carter.
Did they name it the China Air Base, just like we can rename the Gulf? Because I have no idea why this is germane to any part of the conversation.
Something.
Yeah.
I don't know what the new name is, but you'll have to ask the Chinese because they're the ones that control it.
Yeah, and we started here with Donald Trump being a genius, and now we're talking about who's renaming Bagram Air Base.
Let's talk about some of his genius ideas. The Gulf of America, how hard will it be for a cartographer that puts print on a map to change it from, let's scratch out Mexico and put America? How hard is that, brother?
It's not necessarily, but there's printing costs. But here's the idea. Guess what, Joe? We don't control what the rest of the world calls something. China all the time renames stuff around them, and we don't turn around and use the Chinese names for it. So just because we decide to call it just because we call it the Gulf of America doesn't mean anybody else in the entire known world
we haven't had Donald Trump in office long enough,
but he can't do anything about it. He can't do anything about it. He doesn't control that.
You can't do anything about it.
No.
Hey, I got a question for both y'all. This is a good text message from Jason in Denver. Should we change Colorado to an English word?
Well, if the Chinese start taking control of it, probably. And I wouldn't be surprised that they do because they're infiltrating California and Washington in droves.
Okay.
Interesting.
Oh, yes.
Well,
the Chinese are infiltrating California and Washington in droves. If you haven't noticed, they're buying all of the real estate around key crucial components of our United States. We need to stop it now.
But that's capitalism, isn't it, Joe? Isn't that the greatest thing in the world? And I appreciate the phone call. It's capitalism. They're coming in, they're buying it. Isn't that what we're supposed to do, is to sell it to them?
Not to another country. I think that's called an invasion.
No, not at all. Why is it called an invasion if another country comes in and just buys land? That's just buying land. It's not an invasion.
You don't think so? You don't think if another country just buys up the land?
If we went in and we purchased plots of land in Germany, we're not invading Germany.
So we're just buying up Greenland then, huh?
It's not invasion. It's not an invasion.
We're just buying up Greenland.
I don't understand the
you don't think
there.
If we bought up Greenland, we wouldn't own Greenland?
No, is that an invasion? Are we invading Greenland?
Well, it would be if
an invasion?
If they didn't want it, yes.
Oh.
If they didn't want us to take it over, if they didn't want to join the United States, sure.
But if they
and
sold
so
it
China's
to us,
just buying up land in America.
If they sold it to us, are we invading
the country or individual people?
Just in general, we're invading. Are we invading Greenland if we buy it?
No.
Okay, well then how come if China it buys land here, it's invading here? Because you just said it wasn't if we did it to Greenland. So why is it an invasion in one case, but it's not an invasion in the other?
Because we don't want the Chinese here.
Yeah.
I think Greenland would like to be a part of the United States.
So it's a rationalization.
No,
it's not
it has to do with the will of the people.
No.
They live
Hang
there.
on a sec. You said you feel this. You don't have any indication anyway about the feelings of Greenland. But hang on, you started with the premise that if China, wait, Jeff, let me get through this. You started with the premise that if China buys land here, that's an invasion. So then I asked you directly,
as opposed to capitalism.
Hang on, can I get through this?
Yes, sure.
Hey, I asked you, and you said that's an invasion.
Yes.
I then asked you directly about if we buy Greenland, is that an invasion? You said no.
Right.
And all I'm showing you is the hypocrisy and the rationalization of your thought process, which is if the Chinese buy it, that equals invasion. Yes. America buys it, that's good. That's rationalization and that's hypocrisy.
No,
and that's okay.
No,
that's okay that you're good with that. And that's fine. You can live in that world and you can be okay with that.
They're different. The Greenland people might like to be a part of the United States. I don't think we want to be a part of China.
Maybe China wants to be a part of the U.S. And those Chinese people, they're buying it here, so they can be a part of the U.S.
Well, China, someone from China, Chinese buying land is not an issue. The Chinese government buying the land is an issue.
Maybe they want to be part of America because that's your assumption with the people in Greenland. Again, the idea is it's only okay if America buys it, then it's not an invasion.
No,
somebody else buying it, then it's an invasion.
The facts on the ground are not the same in your examples.
Hypocrisy.
No, it's not. The facts on the ground are different in your examples. If Greenland was going to fight against becoming part of the United States, like organize, get weapons, and have a revolution against the United States, I don't want anything to be a part of that. I don't like if Greenland wants to be a part of the United States, that's fine. I think it's great.
But yet again,
in America, the Chinese government buying up land is an invasion because we don't want to be a part of China.
Where are the armed people fighting the land thing there? Because your justification for the Greenland thing to not be any good was that the Greenland people were taking up arms and everything else. We're not taking up arms here, so we must be okay with it. Again, I'm only using your examples.
No, we're stopping
I'm using your examples.
We're actually passing laws to stop it.
I'm not against those. I'm not against those. But the issue is that you view the purchase of land in one case an invasion and isn't in the other. And that's hypocrisy.
The facts are different. Oh, my goodness.
No, the facts are the same. And that's hypocrisy. And that's okay.
All right. Give us a call. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Let's check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. Feels like Greenland out there. It's 9 degrees, clear, freezing. Take it slow on the roads, the side roads, until that sun comes out and melts some of the ice. Expecting a high of 41 today with sunshine. Thousands of Southern California residents, including a lot of Hollywood stars, are hoping their homes survive the Palisades fire. The wildfire has burned roughly 3,000 acres in the Pacific Palisades, and strong winds are pushing the flames, which have destroyed an unknown number of homes and structures. President Biden says he could have won the re-election. Biden told USA Today on Tuesday he could have defeated DJT, but when asked if he could have had the vigor for a second term, he said, "Who knows what I'm going to be when I'm 86 years old?" I think we all know the answer to that. On the same line here, same subject, what a transition here. A long line of people began filing past former President Carter's casket in the U.S. Capitol Rotunda last night. The 39th president will lie in state at the Capitol until Thursday morning. DJT had a surprise press conference Tuesday. So many highlights.
We're approaching the dawn of America's golden age. It's going to be a golden age for America. We have things that nobody else has. We have more natural resources.
Yes, I love it. Anytime you can expose the fraud of subsidized windmills, it's a good thing.
You can talk about windmills. They litter our country. They're littered all over our country, like dropping garbage in a field. And that's what happens to them, because in a period of time, they turn to garbage. Most expensive energy ever. They only work if you get subsidy. The only people that want them are the people that are getting rich off windmills, getting massive subsidies from the U.S. government. And it's the most expensive energy there is. It's many, many times more expensive than clean natural gas. So we're going to try and have a policy where no windmills are being built. You know, off the coast of New Jersey, they want to build like 200 windmills. The people are going crazy. Nobody wants them. and they're very expensive. They don't work without subsidy. You don't want energy that needs subsidy. Energy is a good business. You don't need subsidy.
Boy, isn't that the truth? Police say the Springs man who blew up a Tesla Cybertruck in Las Vegas used AI to plan the attack. Assistant Sheriff Dory Corin of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department says a search history shows Matthew Livelsberger used Chat GPT to find information on how to carry out his plan.
He's trying to figure out where to buy fireworks and how much of it to buy. He looks at the equivalence of those fireworks and how they compare to TNT and other types of explosive material. He also says that he has graphic encounters from his military experience that replay in his head over and over, and that now he feels like he's a shell of a human being with nothing to live for.
Police say the U.S. Army Green Beret fatally shot himself before the truck exploded outside the Trump International Hotel. The FBI is confirming the discovery of a cooler and sulfuric acid inside a storage unit reportedly rented by the New Orleans terrorist. FBI agents and Harris County deputies investigated a storage unit on Monday night, finding commercially available bottles of sulfuric acid in a cooler similar to the one found near the scene of the Bourbon Street attack. 2 suspects are in custody after they allegedly robbed an Aurora Walgreens store last night. Investigators say the suspects took about $5,000 in OxyContin from the Iliff Avenue store during the robbery. Pharmacy employees hid a GPS tracker in the stolen medication, allowing police to track the suspects to another Walgreens near Smoky Hill and South Aurora Parkway. The suspects were arrested after a pursuit on foot. Peter Yarrow of Peter, Paul, and Mary has passed away. He was 86. The Celtics beat the Nuggets last night, 118-106. 6 degrees in Arvada, Englewood, it's 7, and in Denver, 9 degrees. Wednesday morning, hump day, Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
We're under a winter weather advisory through noon. It'll be mostly cloudy with periods of light snow, mainly here in the morning hours. Watch for slick roads. Any additional accumulations will be light. Highs only 20s. Be ready for a cold night tonight in the upper single digits. Watch for fog. Wednesday, sunny, 30s, teens Wednesday night, mostly cloudy. We may see another chance of light snow again with another front during the day Thursday and continued cold. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're going to pivot here a little bit. Tucker Carlson hosted Billy Bush. I haven't seen Billy.
Before we get to that, though, I just want to, shout out the caller, top of the hour, that called in just to say that I'm stupid. Really? I just, juvenile. I mean, he didn't go through, he talked about, he likes what Joe said, and then just called me dumb and stupid and then hung up. Really? That's like playground stuff. You can't engage intellectually. I mean, we're trying here. I'm sitting here for 4 hours giving you how I feel about these things, how I think, and I will defend everything that I say. And I'm sitting right here, and y'all hit the phone or the text message and you say, "You're stupid." Like I haven't heard that since 3rd grade. You lack the ability to engage intellectually. You think it's the first time someone called me a name? You understand how many times I'm called names daily here? And that's the best you can do? You understand how little I think of you when you call in and you text in and that's it? That's all you got? You can't say you're wrong because of X, Y, or Z. You can't say, have you considered this? You can't say, I disagree with you. You had a caller earlier. Person said, I disagree with you so much, but you got this right and I think you've got this wrong. Yeah, we disagreed. We talked about it. That's what we're able to do. A whole bunch of people sit there and call me names on the text messages, then you call the station. You spend the time. You take the time to pick up the phone. You dial 10 digits. You wait for that bloop, 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 And then I answer, and then you just take that moment to insult me. You got that motivated, and all you got is to call me stupid and an idiot. I try harder. I can't believe, I appreciate the fact that you're listening, but spend a little more time. If you're going to actually pick up that phone and dial, more than something to just call me stupid. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of my time. I just wish you could have done it on the air. That would have been fun. But, we get a lot of people that don't have the testicular fortitude to say those things on the air that they call me and say to me off the air or on the text messages. That's fine. But guess what? I'm sitting right here every morning. I'm sitting right here. Want to prove me wrong? Want to prove me stupid? Okay. There's the phone.
So Billy and I get back and forth on this. And yesterday I was watching this hour and 40-minute conversation between Billy Bush and Tucker Carlson. At one point, Billy is talking about a very contentious conversation he had with Al Roker. So I actually went back and watched that. Dude, child's play.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to this right here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, come on.
Billy Bush was like, it was so tense. And Al Roker and I were going back and forth. It had to do with Ryan Lochte and the Olympics and all that stuff.
Oh, interesting.
And then I went back to watch it and I was like, dude, that's like the first hour on the Jeff.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And Jeff sits here and takes my crap daily for 4 hours. And he still shows up the next day, but someone else can't get on the phone. And, again, if it makes you feel better, if that's what you feel like, I told him I'm going off on my day. Great. I'm glad that you feel better texting in. Call in. If that's what you need that to get you going, that you feel better because you called me stupid off the air, go right ahead. I'll field those calls all day. But you realize that at the end of the day, they don't matter. Come in and engage intellectually. I get no problem defending it. And on the text messages, I've had people point out stuff and on air and go, oh, I was wrong about that. And I've corrected myself. There's one really good conversation I had on the text messages, and I've changed how I've perceived a couple of things because of things they've said and things that I examined because of their point of view. Not dogmatic, despite what all of you say. But it's so much easier to just call in and say, you're dumb. Okay.
If you want the number, by the way, it's 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. All right. Billy disappeared for 3 years after the Access Hollywood tape. Bad tape. Went back and watched that again, too. And you remember just, it is offensive. It's locker room talk. It's not appropriate. Not going to play it here. But after that, Billy disappeared for 3 years. Couldn't find a job. Ended up in a lot of alcoholism. Found his faith. He talks about his pastor really bringing him out of it. But what was fascinating were a few segments out of this that I want to play. One was the releasing of the tape. So the Access Hollywood tape was created back in 2005. It was released in 2016. It sat in the vaults of NBC for 11 years. And they knew about it. Billy knew about it. Billy actually was probably spent more time with Donald Trump than anybody else. And he actually laughed when Donald Trump was going to run for president first because he just spent so much time. And you remember Donald Trump just kind of being a fun-loving guy, but not serious about politics and that type of stuff. And so didn't take it as seriously. But the timing of the tape was released to specifically affect a debate. So NBC had the tape, knew about it. In all their minds, the thing they remembered about it was Nancy O'Dell, because Donald Trump had a fascination with Nancy O'Dell, really, really wanted to get with her, took her furniture shopping. That stuck in his mind, in Billy Bush's mind, and the execs over at NBC. But they didn't remember kind of all the other stuff. And in fact, Billy says when they first went back and listened to it, they kind of chuckled about it because it was so offensive. But they moved on. And the releasing of the tape was timed to go after Trump. Listen to Billy Bush on Tucker Carlson. Okay. It's playing, but I don't know.
Is the very beginning of Trump derangement syndrome. No matter what, screwing Trump is paramount above everything else.
Yes.
So I would have gotten the pass from the media and maybe still, take a little vacation, but be back still at the Today Show making lots and lots of money for, But I said, no, No, it's wrong. I can't have people look at me that I'm not the guy that's doing that anyone.
Yeah.
I know the
Trapping
stakes and I
people
know
with hidden
how you
cameras.
want this election to turn out. I know how you want it to turn out, but I can't do that. I wouldn't do it to anyone. And they said, okay, we understand. And then they tried to get Access Hollywood. Okay, why don't you guys do a little version of this and put it on? And then I made a huge mistake. And I said to my executive producer, I said, Trump didn't know that this was on. Any other guest would not. I have no protectionism of Trump. I don't, I'm whatever. It's just wrong. And they're setting you up. You're going to become the fall guy. Trump's going to sue NBC for putting this thing out there because he didn't know he was being recorded. And you're the fall guy, you dummy. And they're going to fire you. And he went, oh my God, you're right. So he called back Andy Lack and he said, no, I'm not putting it on Access Hollywood tonight. That was a Friday night. No, Thursday night. Remember, that Sunday, the 9th, was the second presidential debate
with
between Hillary Clinton. They needed this out there before the debate. So Anderson Cooper's first question could be about sexual assault and Donald Trump perpetrating it.
Insane.
So they release the tape, sit on it 11 years. They release it in just enough time, 3 days before a major debate, in order to drive the debate in an effort to harm Donald Trump. Now, part of the interesting aspect of this conversation is the history. So Access Hollywood is a division of NBC. NBC also owned The Apprentice. For years, Donald Trump was the top revenue driver to the tune of $100 million a year with The Apprentice show for NBC. So the background on the creation of that tape was Donald Trump did not know he was being recorded. He is being driven to his studio, to the NBC studio, to do a taping of The Apprentice. Access Hollywood has a bus, and they're taking the bus around the country because their studio's being refurbished. So Billy Bush is interviewing stars all over the country, and his job is to take Donald Trump from his hotel to the studio on the bus and have the conversation. Then they park outside the studio, and the camera guy gets off the bus and goes and waits to film the bus driving up. And then Donald Trump is going to get off the bus, go to an NBC studio. And in fact, it's a soap opera he's going to tape where he's kind of a guest appearance on a soap opera. And one of the soap opera stars is there to meet him as he gets off the bus. So Donald Trump doesn't know he's being recorded. Now, California law is that it's a two-party recording state. Both parties have to agree to being recorded. This is why you have all the conversation happening there about should NBC release it? If NBC releases it, are they going to be sued by Donald Trump? Now, they know this tape exists. They sit on it for 11 years because of why? Because Donald Trump is the cash cow for NBC. So if you think NBC has this great concern about the treatment of women and those types of things, wrong. They sat on this. They knew about it because they were earning $100 million a year off of him. This is all about money. Okay. Here's some of the history that Billy Bush gives.
So especially strange for NBC, which, as you've said a couple of times, was the recipient of like all this profit. $100 million a year from this show. So like they love Trump, but they pivot so fast to hating Trump obsessively. Why?
Well, 11 years, a lot can happen, like the bitter negotiations over the Miss Universe pageant and the fallout and lawsuits and countersuits. And, after he left The Apprentice, they replaced him at one point with, they tried to replace him with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he denigrated them. And Schwarzenegger's terrible. Those two hated each other. They fought. Trump's a street. He's the king of the concrete jungle.
Yeah.
You know, and so he's like, once the apprentice had died, he blamed them for it, and you know, he fights dirty, and they, you know, and I think they had, you know, that big lawsuit over Miss Universe kind of bummed them out, and they ended up hating each other. It happens.
Oh, yeah, it does.
In some of, you know, and so a falling out. And then when he decides to run later, now it's like, get him at all costs. And they want Hillary.
It was about a personal vendetta. This was not Me Too. We're going to stand with women. We want to protect with women. In fact, later in the program, they talk all about how the NBC executives have all these skeletons in the closet. They basically fired Matt Lauer. They released this over Trump, but very guilty parties all the way up to the very top of NBC. It was a personal vendetta over lawsuits related to Miss America, released specifically before a debate in order to harm Donald Trump and get Hillary Clinton elected. Then it gets crazier. Listen to this about ABC.
You said this was the beginning of Trump derangement syndrome. Did you sense that at NBC?
Oh God, they absolutely. I mean, anything. Remember this, over at ABC News, they did at the same time when Trump became president, they built a 75-person investigative unit. I know the guy who was head of it, dedicated to anything negative on Trump, find stuff on him and get him out. This is not journalism. This is not news. It is activism. When you're calling journalism, it's total activism.
What do you think that
all
was?
The major networks. That's why, by the way, when NBC does the thing that they did, ABC and CBS don't call it out. They don't say,
of course,
you know, hey, what, you're competing with each other. I would want to pound my competitor.
Yeah.
You're like, look what you did. That was dirty, because all of them would have done it too, probably. You know what I mean?
What do you think?
They all shared that mission.
They all shared that mission. ABC, CBS, NBC, 75-person research team at ABC to get anything they could on Donald Trump to take him out. And Bill, this is what I've been saying about Channel 9 in the sense of with Next and Kyle Clark, is like, why the other news agencies don't call out some of the partisanship in what's supposed to be journalism. That's what drives me crazy. Is that it's not just activism, because I'm an activist, okay? But I don't call myself a journalist. I'm not going out there saying I report the news fair and balanced or anything, stuff like that. I'm a conservative activist driving a conservative agenda. And Billy Bush gives you great insight into what ABC, NBC, CBS, and why they don't call each other out on it, because they're all motivated by the same thing, which you hear is get Donald Trump out. And that's why nobody trusts the news anymore.
Well, that's, again, based on his specific conclusion. He's concluded personally that the mission of these organizations is to get Donald Trump out. That's not anything that he's been able to bring to the table to show any specific statements by people in charge, people that told him, any of that. I mean, he
says he personally knows the guy that's
the
in
investigation
charge
team,
of the 75-person investigation team.
And they were trying to dig up dirt on a presidential candidate. Yeah, it seems 75 does seem excessive, but here's the idea: is this, to me, is I hear over and over again this MAGA sense of victimhood. That it's always, oh my God, we're being so wronged. We're victims of all of this, and we're victims. And oh my gosh, I can't believe that the news would come out and they would have a point of view, or they would want to do something. Wait until what Billy Bush says later on in his conversations here. And I can't believe they would do this. I've been critical of ABC and NBC and CBS. Although I'm curious, he doesn't offer anything as far as proof other than his feelings and his interpretation that NBC was trying to tank Donald Trump specifically with that audio because of the lawsuit over Miss America that was going on. It was settled in, I think, 2016-ish or so. But if they had it for so long, they could have brought out that tape a long time ago. But does it seem
they
to?
did.
But
they could have.
Yeah, but why weren't they trying to get him? But now they want to get him. But all of a sudden now we got to get him.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't think Billy Bush has made the case about then. But what he's right about is, yes, you would drop that audio within close proximity to when someone you're involved with is doing a debate because you want it to make news. That is strategic. That's exactly what you would do. That's what you do at any point in time. That's why you drop other bad stories Friday afternoon coming out of Washington, D.C., because no one's paying attention. That happens all the time. That's how news is done. That's happened everywhere across both the conservative and liberal media and mainstream
if Donald Trump was such a threat to women, and they had the tape in 2005, and they didn't release it because he was the king cash driver of the network. Either they don't really care about women because they're just going to put a terrible man around women, or they don't really believe that Donald Trump is a threat to women.
Or the money's more important. That's basically what it is. Yeah,
right.
The money.
Or it's about the money.
Yeah, the money is more important. Yes. And we see that over and over and over and over and over, where the money is more important in situations than the individual's behavior and predilections. Over and over and over. Exhibit 1? No, in Exhibit 1, Jeffrey Epstein. Over and over and over. Yes. All the time. And Jeff Go Schools is another great example. The money. That's it. Yeah, it was about money. As long as he was making money for him, they're going to keep that quiet. And as soon as he wasn't making money for him, they're going to release it. Yes, that is how things happen in Hollywood and in the regular world and everything else. If you have a business partner that you're having problems with, and then things go sour, then all of a sudden, things come out. We can even go to the killer dentist that Stephen Tubbs and I go to. It's not a great example, but it was in part his business partner that helped turn the evidence against him, in part because the business was failing, because they were losing money hand over fist. If it was a booming business and they were multimillionaires and they had so many people showing up at that office every day, they were turning people away at the door every single day. Does that business partner make a different choice that day rather than calling the police about what he has been told? Does he instead keep it quiet and talk instead directly to his partner and see if his partner can explain it? He may make a different decision based on the money involved. People make a lot of different decisions. We are totally fine that Saudi Arabia took Jamal Khashoggi and chopped him up inside of an embassy. We're fine with that. Why? The money. The money. Yes, it's the money. Absolutely, it's the money. I'm not defending NBC saying they made the right choice.
No, they didn't.
I'm saying
they clearly
it is the
didn't
money. It is the money choice. And however, on the other side, though, imagine if NBC didn't bring it out, and then it comes out 2, 3, 4 years into the Trump administration. People would go, why didn't you tell us this beforehand? Isn't the whole thing about the Hunter Biden laptop is, oh my God, we couldn't see it for 48 hours. And that somehow changed the entire election because this is information people should have had beforehand. The argument, if it came out afterwards, would have been, this is information people should have had beforehand. Now, I'm not going to say it would have changed the election in any way, shape, or form, but I'm just saying that if it came out post-election, that would be the critique. Why didn't you tell us beforehand? Because we had a right to know. It's the same argument about Hunter Biden's laptop, and that was only held back for 48 hours.
The release of that tape was done to maximize damage against Donald Trump, to impact a personal vendetta that NBC had, because they clearly weren't that concerned about him for the 11 years prior to it, because he was making a ton of money from it. And I don't think they thought that he was actually that big of a threat. What Billy Bush says in that interview is that they all kind of just brushed it off as kind of locker room talk, like Donald Trump said when that video came out. All right. I want to get next. How did it get from Access Hollywood to the Washington Post? Has to do with Chelsea Clinton's wedding. First, I want to talk to you about my friend Dan Kaplis and Dan Kaplis Law. Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Kaplis, he's the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law, the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. Here's his phone number, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dancapluslaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Some interesting new information coming out. Billy Bush sits down with Tucker Carlson on that famous Access Hollywood tape. How did it get to the Washington Post?
How it got from the vaults at NBC News to the Washington Post. Who did it go to?
We don't know exactly, but if you want to begin the internal investigation, Noah Oppenheim is the president of NBC. He's the he's general manager of the Today Show. His co-editor of the Harvard Crimson newspaper, back when he was a Harvard man, was a writer named David Fahrenthold from the Washington Post. And Fahrenthold is the one, they ran the Crimson together. They were both groomsmen in Chelsea Clinton's wedding.
Actually?
Co-groomsmen. Oh, yeah, because one of their other buddies was the guy that Chelsea married. So they were groomsmen in the wedding together. Anyway, that guy's the one who released. It's like the paper trail is terrible. I mean, I could start there.
Wait, so the college buddy of the NBC president
is now a writer at Washington Post, and then 2 years later, or a year and a half later, he gets his own NBC News contributing gig, and he gets a sweet gig over at MSNBC. So they pay him back for the hustle. That's where I would start the investigation. I'm not saying that happened, but I would begin there and just see if it saves you some time. I don't know.
NBC loved Donald Trump for years. He was the top cash cow for them. They knew about the video. They sat on it for 11 years. They released it specifically to impact a debate based upon a personal vendetta after lawsuits between Donald Trump and NBC. ABC organizes a 75-person research team to go get Donald Trump out. And the people that released it to the Washington Post from NBC were in Chelsea Clinton's wedding. And they all claim to be doing news. All right, we'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking Billy Bush and Tucker Carlson, and Billy and I even having our own conversations offline about this. Here's the last clip on the death of television.
People you still must know people in linear television at the Today Show or other places.
Sure.
How are they feeling about the prospects of their
There's a few
business?
There's like a few big contracts left, but they're all shrinking. Like Stephanopoulos just renegotiated to come down. Everyone's coming down. They're all coming down to earth. Hoda left, but there's still plenty of $25 million a year people, like everyone on Good Morning America. But all their renegotiations come down. The whole thing is slowly, the low is for the next 5-10 years. I think there'll be a place for that morning TV, right? But not at these astronomical.
It doesn't feel like it drives anything anymore.
Well, it's so scared. It doesn't take an opinion. It doesn't take a position. It doesn't. They're not. The Today Show and Good Morning America are not competing to win or to grow. It's who can die the slowest.
Yeah,
that's the fight.
But it doesn't. I mean, it used to be. For decades, if it appeared in the first hour of the Today Show, it kind of defined the news.
7:35 a.m. was known as the money slot. Whatever airs at still to this day, whatever airs at 7:35, folks, that's the best thing they got. And after that, you can move on.
But it doesn't seem like it determines what people are talking about at 8:35 anymore.
No. The internet is
just ate it.
Eating, destroying everyone. It's an insatiable belly.
I found that interesting because I agree with him. Those morning shows, news, it's just all changing so very much. In fact, Channel 9 was talking about this last night too, about the fires happening in Los Angeles, and it doesn't seem like people are paying that much attention to it like they used to, and they're
consumption of news is changing, and how we get our news and where we get it from, and those large organizations, and especially ABC, NBC, CBS, are going to have to deal with it. And he's right about the erosion of salaries, but we've seen that in radio for 15 years now. The salaries that you had 15, 20 years ago aren't even close to the salaries you have now. And the one thing that I thought was ironic in that was Billy Bush talking about how the media outlets need to take a position or opinion. But he had spent the previous 40 minutes bitching about media outlets taking a position or opinion. And then he turns around and says, but that's what they need to do. I think he needs to maybe run these things through his head a little bit more often before they spill out of his face hole.
Yeah, I see it a little differently. I think he would clearly demonstrated that the media is coordinated against Donald Trump. And this isn't just about happenstance. There are personal agendas behind it. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk station, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 8 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe. They put glass between Billy and
Yes, they need to.
Sometimes that helps.
That I was discussing with our new engineer the other day about some studio remodeling stuff. And he's like, yeah, and we can get you both in the studio at the same time. I'm like, are you sure that's safe? I mean, what's the distance between the two of us? Because we can't reach across the decks and slap each other. We got to be at least arm's distance plus away just because I know you'd want to slap me in the head a couple of times just because.
Well, and like I said in the previous hour, during that conversation with Billy Bush and Tucker Carlson, Billy's like, oh, yeah, Al Roker and I, we really got into it one time.
Yes.
And it was super tense. And our relationship was never the same afterwards. And so I went back to watch it, and it was a discussion about Ryan Lochte and the Rio Olympics and all that stuff. Anyways, dude, that's like us getting along.
Yes, exactly. That's a good day on the show. Bunch of babies. Now, Jeff, my friend, I got to tell you about something amazing going on at Balance Wellspace. I want to take this moment to talk to you and our listeners because Balance Wellspace is going to be debuting a brand new set of treatment and care that's going to be very personalized, but I can't take the wrapper off of it yet. Not everything's set. I've got a meeting with them next week. I've been got a preview on it. It's really, really cool. It's really cool, especially for certain injuries that you haven't been able to take time out in order to get some of the care that you need. They've got some cool stuff coming. But right now, I want to talk to you about my friends at Balance Wellspace and the change they've made in my life. I'm not living my life in daily pain anymore. When I got up in the morning, it used to be just how much it was going to hurt, not if it was going to hurt. Balance Wellspace has changed that. I want you to talk to them so that they can make the same change in your life. It's a new year. There's no reason why by the time spring rolls around, you can't be doing things you've only dreamt of doing for the past few years. You can do that with the help of my friends at Balance Wellspace. Check them out at Balance Wellspace, balancewellspace.com. Brand new offices in Lowry, right across from Hangar 2, plenty of parking. The cool thing is it's integrative medicine. I had no idea what that meant until I started working with them. It means that you can get a whole bunch of different care all under one roof. It's trigger point injections, physical rehabilitation, neuropathic care, regenerative care, wave therapy, chiropractic care, all of that and a whole bunch of just cutting edge treatments that are all non-invasive and take advantage of your body's ability to heal itself. The science is just supercharging it. It's just giving it that push in the right direction, taking what your body already can do and then helping your body put itself back together. As we're talking right now, I'm regenerating the disc in my lower back. I've got two vertebrae that are fusing. They pulled them apart with traction, and now I've created some space, created some mobility, loosened up the muscles around there, and now the disc is regenerating. My left knee, I'm out there doing the snow thing yesterday. I'm using my brand new electric snow shovel. That's something else we'll talk about later. So cool. But my knee was solid. I'm leaning on my left knee rather than what I used to do, lean on my right knee. I'm doing bar trivia last night. 2 different times I'm sitting there going, oh, I'm leaning on my left knee and it is completely locked. I wouldn't have done that just more than 6-7 months ago. I couldn't have done that. My knee would have collapsed, but they're helping me regenerate the meniscus in my knee. And now it is my strong knee. My right knee is the one that's giving me problems. Now we're going to work on that one as well. Here's what you do. You contact them at balancewellspace.com, at balancewellspace.com, Dr. Julie, Dr. Jess, the entire team. Go to work on you. They do the tests. They ask you about your pain, and they also ask about things you're not doing anymore and where you want to be. Then they create a custom pain plan just for you. It's treatment that is centered on your needs. I know you've got doctors that are doing that as well right now. However, when's the last time they talked about your care? When's the last time they all got together over the holiday season? Did they send any emails back and forth? Was there a Zoom meeting? Did they meet for cocktails and talk about your care? No, they didn't. That's the difference with integrative medicine. Balance Wellspace will reevaluate your care and where you are every couple of weeks. They'll ask you about it. They'll do some tests and they'll tweak and change things in order to make sure that every single step of your treatment is all rowing in the same direction to make sure you get to feeling as good as you possibly can, as quick as you possibly can. That's the difference maker. Contact them. I'll tell you about them as soon as I can, all the new treatments that's coming out there. That's something special we're going to talk about here in a couple of weeks, but I'm super excited about what they're going to be able to do. I was sharing a little bit with my mom. She got a preview the other day, and it's kind of cool. So we're going to talk about that later. So stay tuned. But right now, I want you to get rid of that pain in your daily life. Get back doing those things that you used to do, but have thought that your body just can't take it anymore. With my friends at Balance Wellspace, I want to have them get the opportunity to make the change in your life. They've you've already made in mind. Reach out to them, balancewellspace.com, balancewellspace.com. And when you do, tell me you heard about them here on the Jeff and Bill show, because they like that. They even tell me, hey, they call in, they tell. There was one person that was excited that I was going to be going in there getting treatment on the same day they were. We missed each other. I'm sorry about that, but it's kind of cool. So yeah, just say, hey, you heard about it here on the Jeff and Bill show, and it helps us out, and they can make your life a whole lot better. I appreciate it.
That's great to hear, Bill. Let's check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. It's 10 degrees outside, sunny and freezing. Take it slow, especially on the side roads this morning. Expecting a high of 41 today in sunshine, and that is a great thing.
We're talking about hundreds of millions, if not more, dollars in damage here. And an entire community in Los Angeles essentially wiped off the map. It's hard to wrap your head around.
That's our top story. That's NBC, a NBC reporter who lives in Southern California. 3 life-threatening wildfires are causing thousands in Southern California to evacuate. The Palisades fire has burned roughly 3,000 acres around the Pacific Palisades, Malibu area. After breaking out on Tuesday, celebrities are among those who have had to flee their homes. Some of the biggest stars in Hollywood live in the upscale LA neighborhood, including Tom Hanks, Bradley Cooper, and Jennifer Aniston. Star Wars actor Mark Hamill said he evacuated at the last minute and that there were small fires on both sides of the road. DJT is asking the Supreme Court to intervene in his election ejection Judge Mersham case ahead of sentencing on Friday. In an emergency relief request, Trump asked the High Court to temporarily block any further criminal proceedings in the state before he's inaugurated. Weekend at Bernie's Star. President Biden telling the USA Today that he could have won re-election. Former President Jimmy Carter is lying in state at the U.S. Capitol. A long line of people began filing past Carter's casket in the U.S. Capitol Rotunda Tuesday evening. And once again, DJT with the surprise press conference Tuesday talking J6 pardons.
People that did some bad things were not prosecuted. I see it all the time, and you see it too. People that were doing some bad things weren't prosecuted, and people that didn't even walk into the building are in jail right now. So we'll be looking at the whole thing, but I'll be making major pardons. Yes, please.
Also, DJT talked about Sleazy Joe banning offshore drilling 2 days ago, just trying to destroy DJT and the administration coming in and America.
How much acreage did you submit? Essentially, did you destroy? You destroyed the economic viability of drilling in the ocean.
Police say that the Springs man who blew up a Tesla Cybertruck in Las Vegas used AI to plan the attack. The assistant sheriff said that Matthew Livelsberger from the Springs used ChatGPT to find information on how to carry it out.
He's trying to figure out where to buy fireworks and how much of it to buy. He looks at the equivalence of those fireworks and how they compare to TNT and other types of explosive material. He also says that he has graphic encounters from his military experience that replay in his head over and over, and that now he feels like he's a shell of a human being with nothing to live for.
Police say the U.S. Army Green Beret fatally shot himself before the truck exploded outside the Trump International Hotel. The FBI is confirming the discovery of a cooler and sulfuric acid inside a storage unit reportedly rented by the New Orleans terrorist. FBI agents and Harris County deputies investigated a storage unit on Monday night, finding commercially available bottles of sulfuric acid in a cooler similar to the one found near the scene of the Bourbon Street attack. Police in Aurora looking for 2 men after a deadly shooting early Tuesday. Investigators say the suspects entered an apartment on East Jewel at about 6:15 in the morning and fought with the family inside. Shots were fired, and a 16-year-old girl died after being taken to the hospital. No one else was injured. Investigators are trying to determine if there was a prior relationship between the suspects and the family. Peter Yarrow of Peter, Paul, and Mary has passed away. He was 86. NBA Celtics beat the Nuggets last night, 118-106. It's 7 in Boulder and 9 in Glendale and 10 in Denver. Yes,
Blake,
sir.
I got to ask you this before you go. Scanners in Los Angeles around these wildfires are reporting that people are now looting the homes that have been evacuated.
Are you kidding me? I didn't see that. Wow.
Isn't that-
I'm only in California and New York and Illinois.
There should be special punishments for those.
Oh, no doubt.
I mean,
And
you flee everything, right? Like, just try to imagine the scenario you're in.
Yep.
Because I've thought about this, right? If you have a fire bearing down on you, what do you grab? You grab the drives with the kids' pictures on it. You grab the important documents, and you just get the hell out because you want to save your life, right?
Absolutely.
And then looters come in and take
slimy, disgusting human beings, and they know they're stars up there. So how many? Oh my goodness! So they're raiding. They're gonna find Tom Hanks's house. God only knows what they find in there. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Wow, that's crazy. Thanks for telling me that. It's Wednesday. Jeff and Billy continue.
Old white guys, good old white guys, young white guys.
Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
We're under a winter weather advisory through noon. It'll be mostly cloudy with periods of light snow, mainly here in the morning hours. Watch for slick roads. Any additional accumulations will be light. Highs only 20s. Be ready for a cold night tonight in the upper single digits. Watch for fog. Wednesday, sunny, 30s, teens Wednesday night, mostly cloudy. We may see another chance of light snow again with another front during the day Thursday and continued cold. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Joe Biden banning new oil and gas drilling along most U.S. coasts. The ban affects the entire eastern seaboard, the Pacific coast, along California, Oregon, Washington, the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and the northern Bering Sea. Apparently, they'd rather put windmills up in the oceans than drill for oil and gas. But in just a little bit, we're going to be joined by the president of the Western Energy Alliance. What does this mean for America, and particularly Colorado's energy sectors? We'll hear directly from the experts, Kathleen Sgamma, in just a little bit. You're not going to want to miss it. I want to talk to you first about my friends over at Colorado Christian University. Do you know a high school student who has a passion for engaging in culture and political issues? The knowledge and skills needed to impact the world through civic engagement is an ever-increasing need in today's society. Colorado Christian University is at the forefront of meeting this crucial need, equipping the next generation of competent, convictional Christian leadership in American politics. CCU's degree program in politics, with an emphasis in public policy, prepares students for the complex challenges of modern politics with an unapologetically Christian and foundationally conservative worldview. In this distinct program, students learn how to impact public policy, advance Christian conservative ideas. Colorado Christian University also houses the Centennial Institute, a think tank committed to mobilizing ideas on faith, family, and freedom to strengthen America's future. CCU's mission to produce graduates who impact the world with grace and truth applies in no greater measure than to our politics and public policy program. Apply today at ccu.edu/apply. That's ccu.edu/apply. All right. So Joe Biden banning new oil and gas drilling along most U.S. coasts. As I mentioned, the eastern seaboard, Pacific coast along California, Oregon, Washington, the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and the northern Bering Sea. Holy cow, that's 625 million acres of U.S. coastal waters. How is this going to impact America? More importantly, how could this impact Colorado? Joining us is the president of the Western Energy Alliance, Kathleen Sgamma. Kathleen, I hope I pronounced your last name right. Correct me if I'm wrong. I want to get it right. But thank you so much for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
You did. Thanks so much for having me on.
Great. So give us some insight on what this could mean, and could Donald Trump reverse it? You're the pros over at the Western Energy Alliance.
We are going to see if he can reverse it. I think it's probably the first fight in the new administration as far as a legal fight. It is not clear how to do that, but if a president can, by diktat, put aside that many acres in the ocean, then he can probably, by diktat, also reverse it. But I think it will go through the courts to determine if that is indeed the case.
Well, we know the United States relies upon so many different avenues of energy, from oil, natural gas, including green energy. What are you all, as the Western Energy Alliance, looking towards the Trump administration to do to impact our cost of living and access to oil and gas here in this country?
Certainly, we are looking for a return to regular order on oil and natural gas development in the United States. So the Biden administration had a specific agenda of overregulating and shutting down oil and natural gas development and transport in the United States at every turn. So we are looking for the Trump administration to get back to regular leasing on federal lands, regular offshore lease sales. They're supposed to do 5-year plans and lease sales. We get about 15% of our oil from offshore, and we get about 10% of our oil production on federal lands in Colorado and all across the West. So we're looking for the Trump administration just to move forward with regular lease sales. They're supposed to do quarterly lease sales in all states like Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico that have federal oil and natural gas. We're looking for the Trump administration to issue permits without years of delay. We're looking for the Trump administration to loosen up some of the litigation that has been taking place on federal lands and solve some of those issues by doing corrective environmental analysis, which the Biden administration has been dragging its feet on. So all kinds of things just to get back to certainty and regularity on public lands and also on non-federal lands. Luckily, most of our oil and natural gas are developed on private and state lands, but the federal government has been overregulating in that space as well. So certainly there is a bedrock of environmental laws that we gladly follow in the oil and natural gas industry, because it has an impact and we want to make sure that impact is minimized and any risk is minimized. So there's a bedrock of environmental laws that we follow, but the Biden administration tried to go above and beyond what the law allows to regulate us out of business. And so we're looking for the Biden administration, or at the Trump administration, in all aspects to kind of reverse some of that overregulation and get back to regular order in the United States.
Talking with Kathleen Sgamma, the president of the Western Energy Alliance. Now, Kathleen, a lot of those regulations and impacts come through executive rulemaking, executive agencies like the EPA. How big of an impact can Trump have with maybe bureaucrats that work in those agencies that don't agree with his policies, might slow roll approving some of these leases? Is Trump going to have a challenge working within these administrations with these bureaucrats?
Yes, that is always the case. However, he has hundreds of political appointees across all kinds of federal agencies, and they have the ability to work with the career staff and move forward with the agenda. In the first Trump administration, they did give him quite a hard time. I think the Trump administration, or President Trump and his people, have learned how to overcome some of that bureaucratic inertia. And I think he will get more cooperation this time around. But there's regular order. There is law to follow. So anytime a new regulation is put in place, it requires a specific process. And so we will expect the Trump administration to do the hard work of going through those processes. And just like the Biden administration did, although in some cases they shortcutted the process and they regulated unlawfully. They did stuff that is simply not in the law. So we're looking for the Trump administration to follow the law and go through those processes and, just be deliberative.
Talking with Kathleen Sgamma, the president of the Western Energy Alliance. I want to pivot now to Western lands. All right. So what has it been like for energy companies in the Western United States, maybe for the last decade or so? So much of Western land is locked up and owned by the federal government. Are they leasing it? Are they opening it up? Are they creating opportunities there for local industries and the economies of these local communities? Or has it been locked down and challenging? And do you expect an energy boom in the Western United States in the next 4 years?
We have struggled with the Biden administration as far as federal lands. That is where the federal government has the most control. So the Biden administration had the most opportunity to create mischief on federal lands. I just want to make sure your listeners know that there are about 700 million acres of federal lands that have potentially oil and natural gas under them. Obviously, not all of them do. But we do not develop in national parks, wilderness areas, and other protected areas. So there are already hundreds of millions of acres that are locked away, protected in parks and wilderness areas, et cetera. So we're not trying to develop there. But there are also hundreds of millions of acres of working landscapes across the West where it's appropriate for ranching, mining, timber, and oil and natural gas development, wind and solar development. So on those working public landscapes, the oil and natural gas industry has about 24 million leases from the federal government. But of those leases, we only disturb a very small amount. About 0.06% of those federal lands have any kind of activity on them. So we think that's a really good balance. Of the 700 million acres of federal lands, only about less than 500,000, about 450,000 acres have some kind of oil and natural gas activity on them. So we really think it's a balance on federal lands. And we want to get back to regular order with the Trump administration. Right now, Western Energy Alliance is in court defending about 6,000 leases that have been held up in the courts. There are things that the Trump administration can do to allow that litigation to be corrected, and that we can move forward with those 6,000 leases. But again, of those 6,000 leases, only about 0.06% of the acreage they represent will actually have any oil and natural gas equipment on them.
Now, Kathleen Sgamma, president of the Western Energy Alliance, what does that do for local communities? When you open up this land, when you're able to drill and develop minerals out of the land as well, what does that do for jobs? What does that do for schools? What does it do for the local communities that are just struggling, paycheck to paycheck right now?
Well, it's particularly relevant for the west slope of Colorado. You have counties like Rio Blanco, which have about 85% are federally owned. All of the western slope communities have a lot of public lands. So when the Biden administration makes it difficult for them to develop their oil and natural gas resources, it means that jobs and opportunities are not available to those communities. I'd also like to point out that since President Trump signed the Great American Outdoors Act in 2020, every year, $2.8 billion goes into conservation in Colorado and all across the United States. And that money goes into public lands, national parks, developing infrastructure, doing conservation projects. So that money from the oil and natural gas industry for conservation is one of the largest sources of conservation funding. Actually, it is the largest source of conservation funding, and it comes about 93% from oil and natural gas. So 100% of the land and water conservation fund comes from offshore oil and natural gas development. And the rest comes from both offshore and onshore. So every year we're providing billions of dollars to the taxpayer in royalties and leasing revenues. And a big chunk of that, about $2.8 billion a year, goes into conservation. So if we shut down oil and natural gas in Colorado, in offshore, then we put at risk conservation funding with really no chance of that being taken up by other sources of energy. Right now, solar provides zero revenue to the federal government. Right now, wind energy provides zero royalties to the federal government from, wind and solar on federal lands. So, if we really want to make sure that conservation funding continues, oil and natural gas is the energy source that not only provides about 70% of everyone's energy needs, but also about 93% of conservation funding.
Kathleen Sgamma, president of the Western Energy Alliance. I want to ask you about how Colorado's regulations have been impacting our economy, funding. We know that there's a budget shortfall down at the Colorado State Capitol. How have all these restrictions that have come under the Polis administration been affecting Coloradans?
Well, you can thank the Polis administration and the Democrat the Democrat legislature in Colorado for making your energy prices higher and for revenue shortfalls, because every year Colorado enjoys hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue from the oil and natural gas industry and billions of dollars in economic impact. But they are trying through their regulatory levers to shut that down. They are chasing companies away from Colorado. We're getting to a situation where there are going to be very few companies, just the largest companies that can operate in Colorado, because Colorado specifically tries to drive away small companies and tries to drive away the industry in the name of climate change. So if we had realistic climate change policies in Colorado, we wouldn't be hamstringing our economy and killing jobs. We would recognize that natural gas has already delivered the greatest greenhouse gas reductions in the United States. So we wouldn't be trying to shut that down. But unfortunately, your zealots in Colorado don't see it that way.
Kathleen Sgamma, president of the Western Energy Alliance, joining Jeff and Bill live. Earlier in the conversation, you talked about a return to regular order. I just want to outline that. You mean what has been the traditional regulatory process, because Trump did a little bit, but more Biden and Obama as well. A lot of executive orders that are changing the rules. Is that what we're talking about? I just want to make sure I'm clear on the terms.
Well, there are executive orders, and then there are rulemaking processes that the Biden administration has taken part in that go above and beyond the law. So we're looking for the Trump administration to adhere to the laws that Congress has passed, get rid of some of that overregulation. Here's a case in point. There is a conservation rule that the Bureau of Land Management finalized early in mid-2024, and that rule elevates conservation over oil and natural gas development on public lands. Now, we all agree that when oil and natural gas takes place, it should protect the land. There should be no undue degradation of the land. We should protect it. We mitigate our impacts. We're great stewards of the land. But this law, or this rule, put elevated conservation over energy development. Now, remember, again, that hundreds of millions of acres are already locked away for wilderness areas, parks. So we're talking about those lands that the Bureau of Land Management manages that are appropriate for oil and natural gas development and have been designated as such through years of public land planning processes.
Okay.
So the Biden administration unlawfully tried to upset that balance on public lands. We're looking for the Trump administration to undo that regulation.
Now, I can appreciate that. And I think, that I believe that the Biden administration has gone over regulatory, and especially the executive orders. We started the conversation with Kathleen Sgamma, president of the Western Energy Alliance, talking about the recent offshore drilling executive order that it bans it coming out of the Biden administration. I believe that Trump should be able to just reverse that with another executive order. I do think you're right that the courts will get involved, but I think they're going to defer to the president. If one president can issue an executive order saying X, then another president can issue an executive order saying Y. It's just going to take some time to get that through. Now, I do want to talk to you about some of the idea. You talked about regulating oil and gas out of business. And what I'm looking at is we talk about the idea of the need to develop oil and gas, but at the same time, America is the #1 oil and gas producer on the planet, and those companies are making record profits. Help me square the circle with the idea of regulating this industry out of business when it seems to be dominating the global market and making record profits at the same time. I don't see the danger that you were outlining. Help me understand that.
Well, this notion of record profits, I'm not sure that's the case, but profits are not a bad thing. Profits then create new jobs. Profits are used for research and development. Profits find new oil and natural gas resources to develop. But I was really saying out of business when it comes to Colorado. Colorado is trying to chase its oil and natural gas industry out of the state. We're very fortunate in the United States that there is Texas, that there is North Dakota, that New Mexico is going forward with its development, even on federal lands. Because Texas, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, those places where we get huge amounts of oil and natural gas are really on mostly non-federal lands. Texas is almost exclusively on non-federal lands. North Dakota has only about 1/3 of their wells that are federal. So luckily in the United States, we get about 75% of our production on non-federal lands. But even there, the EPA and other agencies have tried to overregulate the industry. So really, it's Colorado that is on this experiment, along with California, of regulating its state industry out of business. But we are lucky that other states don't take that approach. And that's why the United States is the #1 oil and natural gas producer in the world now.
Now, Kathleen Sgamma, president of the Western Energy Alliance, joining Jeff and Bill live. President Trump, during the campaign, promised to lower our energy costs by 50%. Two-part question. 1, can he? 2, would you support him lowering our energy costs by 50%?
Well, I don't know if you can put a number on it because energy prices are very complex.
But to be fair, though, hang on a sec. But to be fair, though, he did. And we need to use that as the fulcrum. He said 50%. So saying we can't put a number on it, he did. And that's why I asked it specifically in that question. Can he reduce it by 50%? And 2, do you support him reducing it by 50%?
Well, I think President Trump says a lot of grandiose things, and I'm not sure the number is 50% or not. But we certainly know that President Biden increased the price at the pump, gasoline prices, by over 50%. So I think Trump is trying to get those prices back down again.
I'm not sure that's true. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
No.
If you look at the price of a gallon of gallon of gas on day 1,
it's not 50% higher than no.
I'm in my car, sorry, and I don't have the numbers at the tip of my fingers, but the price of a gas of gallon went up considerably under Biden. I think that's not a non-controversial statement. So I think President Trump wants to get that back down. Unleashing more oil and natural gas development in the United States will indeed cause those prices to come down. We as producers actually are on board with that, even though we'll make less for a barrel of oil. We can still produce at a reasonable price. We want to keep prices low for consumers because that just means that we're keeping prices low for consumers. We're doing things that are good for the country. We're creating trillions of dollars in economic impact for all Americans because it's better if we produce it here than if we import it in from other countries.
Then what's the break-even point for the pulling a barrel of oil out of the ground, more or less? Because if we go back to the conditions that you had in the COVID pandemic, again, that is a unique bubble, but that it cost more to pull the oil and gas out of the ground than you could sell it for, and that would be a disincentive. And what I'm worried about is with President Trump's promise of lowering energy costs to 50%, either he's not going to be able to achieve it, or in order to achieve it, he's going to have to put energy costs at a point in which it's not going to be profitable to pull it out of the land. And that, to me, is more of a danger of killing the industry than the idea of the regulations. I agree with you on the regulations, but the idea of forcibly or some other way through economics, reducing energy costs by 50%, I'm assuming that means also cost of a barrel of oil is going to drop by around 50%. That doesn't make it profitable. How does it survive?
Well, it depends on where you are. In Colorado, it costs more to produce a barrel of oil because of all the regulations. In places like Texas and North Dakota, your cost per barrel of oil can be a lot less. So it really depends on where you are in the country, what your costs are. So it's basic supply and demand, right? If if we produce too much in the United States, we will lower the price of a barrel of oil to a point at which producers will start to back off new development, and the price then again rises to that equilibrium level where it is then again profitable to produce a barrel of oil. So, a president does not have a valve where they can just simply lower the price, but a president can make sure that there's a certainty, there's a regular order in the regulatory environment, so that producers can move forward with development. And as demand increases around the globe, increase production. If the price of a barrel of oil gets too high, we'll produce more in the West, we'll produce more all across the country, and we'll bring that price back down. If the price gets to too low of a level because we flooded the world with oil, then we will back off on that production because, it just doesn't make sense. You can't lose money on every barrel of oil. So that is a market mechanism that will continue to play out. But what's really important is that the federal government does not try to arbitrarily drive out oil and natural gas development. So we're looking for a stable regulatory environment so that we can let the market work and we can react to new demand all across the globe and continue to be the number one oil and natural gas producer in the world.
You're listening to the president of the Western Energy Alliance, Kathleen Sgamma. I appreciate in the answer that you said that Trump can't lower that by 50%. He doesn't have a valve to turn on, but that was his promise that he had during the election. And I appreciate that we can come to that agreement and understanding, because I don't think he can do that either. Last question I have for you, and it may be a follow-up there, but last question I have is, what percentage of oil and gas leases that are held, in your opinion, I'm not looking for an absolute number, and I'm not going to hold you to it, but in your opinion, what percentage of those oil and gas leases have oil and gas reserves under them? Are any of those leases possibly dry or in an area, or it just doesn't make any sense to develop them? What do we know?
Well, of the 700 million acres of federal mineral estate, only 24 million acres are leased. So we're talking about 4% of all federal land.
And of that percent, how much holds oil and gas reserves?
Yep. So of that, companies don't nominate lands for leasing if they don't think that they have potentially economic oil and natural gas under them. So what happens is companies have an idea. Let's get these leases. Let's see if they have oil and natural gas under them. And if they do, then we'll move forward with development on them. So we develop a very small percentage of those lands based on exploratory work. And that's why we have that balance on federal lands.
Now, why don't those leases get turned back if you decide not to develop them?
Oh, they do. So every lease is let
for
a 10-year.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, we do. So every lease has a 10-year period. If that lease has oil and natural gas on it and it is producing, it will be held as a lease until the end of the life of that well. So wells can be 30, 40 years, sometimes even longer. So if it's a producing well, it holds that lease. If after 10 years, the producer does not produce on that lease, it reverts back to the federal government. But let's be clear. A lease is just a right to develop oil and natural gas. It does not take away the other uses of the land. So let's say you have 5,000 acres that you're developing on. Maybe you have a couple of well pads on there, which cumulatively disturb about 20 acres. The rest of the land around that is still used for recreation, wildlife conservation. There could be ranching on that land. There often is ranching on that land. So it's not like that land is locked away from other uses.
I'm talking to Kathleen Sgamma, president of the Western Energy Alliance. I want to bring up a few facts here with regards to Donald Trump. It was his ambition, he said, to bring down the energy bill by 50%. But Kathleen was right. At a certain point under Joe Biden's leadership, the cost of the at the gas pump per gallon doubled what it was when Joe Biden started. So when he started office, it was $2.39. It went up over $5 in 2022. It's now come back down to $3.07. But Kathleen, you were right about that. It did double under Joe Biden. Kathleen Sgamma, thank you so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure. Good conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
you can learn more about the Western Energy Alliance by going to westernenergyalliance.org. That's westernenergyalliance.org. Very smart.
Yeah. I'm sorry. What was the time frame that you had as far as the gas? Because I missed part of that because I had someone on the air. I was talking on the phone to someone else that was telling me I was stupid this morning.
Yeah. So
it was just another one of those calls.
When Joe Biden took office, the average price of gas was $2.39.
Yeah, but why was that? What was happening when Joe Biden took office? Is that usual market pressures and things or not?
Well, I don't know, but I mean,
that was COVID. That was COVID, and
we're
we had
talking
a record
about
low. No,
facts. It did go up.
Yeah, I know, but
it went up.
Yeah, but
to $5.
Yeah, but it's not $5 now,
right?
And it did
which
rise.
Is what I said.
Yeah, but it is artificially low because of where it was during the pandemic. I held there was I don't remember who it was on this station that came onto our show prior to the election and talked about, wouldn't it be great that we had a $1.25 gallon of gas again, just like we did at the end of the Trump administration. That was a bogus number because it was the middle of the pandemic and no one was driving. That $2 gallon, that's a bogus number because nobody was driving. That is not applicable to regular economic conditions. I do acknowledge that the price of a gallon of gas did rise under Joe Biden, but the window, but using the window of when he was inaugurated, then doesn't take into account normal economic conditions because of where we started.
Is there anything in America that's a normal economic condition?
Outside, I'm talking about outside the pandemic. We can play with the words, but I'm talking outside the pandemic. And that's it. That's all I'm talking about. Is I think we evaluate Trump and the price of a gallon based outside of the pandemic, and then we evaluate Joe Biden's gas prices outside of the pandemic. Yes, they rose under Biden, but they didn't go up 50% comparatively to where Trump was, given the same economic conditions. That's only fair. It rose, but not 50%. Not what you said it did.
It doubled. It more than doubled. All right. I disagree. I mean, if we want to excuse it because of the pandemic, I guess you could, but I disagree with that. She was right. It went up more than doubled.
Yeah.
All right.
During a pandemic. Great.
You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Great conversation with Kathleen Sgamma with the Western Energy Alliance about what all the energy regulations by Polis and Biden have done to this country and what Trump could do to unleash it. It is sad to see what's happened to Colorado. Colorado, all those buildings downtown used to just be oil and gas buildings. A lot of them were. And those companies are moving on. There's just too much to deal with in the state. They don't want, and that's costing jobs. It's impacting communities. And to her point, revenue, tax revenue that comes in for all sorts of products is disappearing. So it's a problem.
No, I agree with her that we have overregulated oil and gas in Colorado and some of the stuff. And especially when she talks about the idea of the environmental impact being raised above the economic impact, there needs to be a balance. And I felt the oil and gas industry has done a really good job as far as Colorado striking that balance. I think that she is totally and completely 100% right on that. It has been devastating for Colorado oil and gas industry. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Give us a call. Tell us what you think. 303-696-1971. Join us at the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, we're going to talk with Kathy Sabine.
Wow.
I know. Cool. The Grand Marshal of the parade that's happening yesterday.
Does she know she's going to be on this show, or did someone not tell her?
You know,
this is just kind of they're doing a radio interview, and she's like, I would love to do a radio interview.
She didn't run it by Kyle Clark.
I like her even better now.
That would have been canceled.
And shout out to the caller that I talked to just a second ago that said it's probably better, rather than us talking about price a gallon of gas, to compare price of a barrel of oil. They didn't have that in front of them. They said it's probably a more fair comparison between Trump and Biden administration. We don't have to do that now, but I just wanted to agree with the caller. That is probably a better and more fair comparison, because there can be a lot of things that are wrapped up into producing that gallon of gas. That we've seen it, how you drive across Colorado and the price you're going to pay in one part of the state is going to be different than the price you pay in another part of the state. And yeah, pulling a barrel of oil out of Colorado is going to be different than pulling out of Texas, but it may be a better baseline. Don't know what's going to look like. Have no idea. I just wanted to shout out the listener that, yeah, I think he's right about that. I appreciate the call. And then the people who told me I was stupid too. Had those two. But you know how it is.
And I looked it up. It was when...
Yeah, and you probably got to go 2018, because 2019 it's a pandemic. And then you've got to do Biden in 2021.
It did spike around 2022.
Yeah, there's some time there. So I think that's a fair comparison.
Up from like $66 to $114. So almost 50%.
Yeah. That's a fair comparison.
All right, you're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Kathy Sabine's coming up. Yay.
Just about every moment of the show today.
I love you. Even though we do this every day, it is fantastic. I couldn't do it with anybody else. Anybody else.
It is something.
It is.
We're gonna pivot away from something I think, or towards something that I think we could all agree on, which is we love the National Western Stock Show. A few years ago, it almost went to Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I remember that.
Remember that? There was that
tragedy.
battle for it. That would have been horrible.
That would have been awful.
And I think, I don't know the story. This was before I dove into all the details, but I think it was the mayor that jumped in and really took it seriously. He said, because if you've been out to it, that place hasn't been improved since, I think it was built in 1930.
Yeah. And it's the idea of, it's an inelegant analogy, but the idea of professional sports franchises saying, I'll move the team to here because they're going to build me a new stadium.
Yeah, right.
And that was kind of the offer that Oklahoma was flown out there. And not necessarily a new stadium type thing, but they were going to do all improvements and some other stuff. And yeah, I think that the National Western Stock Show has got a little bit of a gritch over the fact there haven't been major improvements out there. And, sometimes, it's difficult to park in certain places and, getting in and out.
Terrible.
It's hard. Yeah.
But I think, they're making the efforts. Things are improving out there, but the event itself, is so wonderful. They're on their 119th.
Oh, it's amazing.
119th. So nobody alive.
Yeah,
when that thing kicked off.
And it is one of the best places to go people watching in Colorado. It is fantastic to wander around.
You get all the city folk like I used to be for a long time that get all cowboyed up and they love it out there. There's no pride. There's no, you're not a real rancher type of thing going on. It's like, welcome, come hang out.
Yeah.
Have a beer.
Yeah. And the food,
check out how we do it.
The food's fantastic. And I always love going through the small animal pens and going through and looking at all the, especially the 4-H and all the other things where the kids have worked on raising these animals, because that's where the love of farming and ranching starts, in my opinion, is taking care of and watching that one animal grow and understanding the time and effort that you put in there that can lead to embracing the lifestyle and the businesses later on. I know that for people that I know in my family, that's where it started as well. That, they grew up on ranches, but they said they didn't get it until they got to raise their own sheep and cattle and then go to auction and understand about that entire circle and cycle of bringing it in, caring for it, raising it, getting it to the best possible condition, and then bringing it to market, and then getting the payoff at the end. They said they got it. And after that, they were hooked. I think it's wonderful.
Food does not come from Walmart.
No,
your food
not
comes
at all.
From farmers and ranchers.
Yeah. And in fact, one of the best things you could do personally, and again, it's financially, we can't do it in our family, but financially it's such a lift. But going out and finding a farmer or rancher and getting cattle from them directly, because they'll have someone that can butcher it for you. And if you have the means and the ability to hang on to that meat, it is going to be some of the best tasting meat and some of the most affordable you will get in the entire state. But you got to have a giant freezer and stuff for that. So, well, I got friends that do like quarter cows and stuff like that.
Yeah, you gotta break it down that
That's
way.
Really what you gotta do.
The National Western Stock Show kickoff parade takes place tomorrow, Thursday, January 9th. The parade will start at noon outside of Union Station and will march 12 blocks down 17th Street to Glenarm Place. Kathy Sabine will guide the procession, which includes a spectacular array of over 30 Longhorn cattle, horses, and Western wagons through the streets of downtown Denver. The parade marks the start of the best 16 days in January and serves as a reminder of the state's rich history and importance of preserving its agriculture.
Just had an idea here. Now, again, just off the top of my head, or maybe coming out of another orifice in my body, if it's a good idea or not. I'm wondering why we don't have more school districts taking field trips down to the parade.
To watch it.
Yeah. And there's a certain window of kids that you can get in that middle school and elementary era. But I think it would be a wonderful activity, an idea to bring them down. Again, they just came back from, the vacation and the break. They're probably not ready to be in the classroom all the time. This would be a fun opportunity to get them out and to do stuff. And again, at that age, you love a parade.
So they have a thing there that we've looked into called Catch a Calf. So speaking of getting kids involved, so if you are a high school 4-H kid, you get to, and you're in good standing, you go down to the National Western Stock Show, and they have calves that they run around, and you run out there with everybody, and you grab one that you want. Okay. They then let you for free take it home, for the next year.
Wow.
So you take the cow home and you raise it. The next year, you bring it back and you auction it off and you get to keep all the money.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Oh, that's really cool. Although I feel bad for, kids like you that went to Cherry Creek High School. Where you put the calf. you can't come home and go, hey, Mom, Dad, I have a new...
around the Glenmore Country Club.
Yes, I have a new pet. I promise to clean up after it. But...
And then our kids did mutton busting.
Oh, yeah, that is so much fun.
Always a crowd favorite.
It is.
Right?
And I never understood. Well, okay, I understood, but didn't agree with the people saying that it shouldn't go on. I think there was a number. I got to say, this has got about 8-9 years ago.
The sheep? Because they felt like the sheep were being abused.
Again, I don't remember. I'm assuming that's what it was.
Yeah.
I don't remember because I didn't commit it to memory because I thought it was stupid at the time. So I'm like, this is just dumb.
Yeah,
this is a dumb thing to complain about, and it's mostly harmless, and no one really gets hurt, and it's a ton of fun, and it's
a
entertaining.
little 60-pound kid on the back of the sheep.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt the sheep.
No, not in the least.
The sheep just runs to the other sheep, and then the kid falls off.
Yeah, and sometimes the sheep get a little kick or stomp, and that makes them feel better. It's okay. That's okay. That is fine. And every kid that does that comes away with a lifelong memory that they are going to be telling friends about for years.
Yep.
Yeah, they're going to be at the college party, half drunk, going, let me tell you about the time I rode a sheep.
So we've got Kathy Sabine coming up here in just a second. We feel incredibly honored to have her on.
Yeah.
But first, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, guys. It's 17 and sunny and freezing, expecting a high of 41 today. Our top story.
Talking about hundreds of millions, if not more, dollars in damage here. And an entire community in Los Angeles essentially wiped off the map. It's hard to wrap your head around.
An NBC reporter who lives in Southern California, thousands are evacuating Southern California due to 3 life-threatening wildfires. The Palisades fire has burned roughly 3,000 acres around the Pacific Palisades, Malibu area after breaking out on Tuesday. The Eaton fire has burned over 2,200 acres near the Pasadena area, while the Hearst fire has torched 500 acres north of San Fernando.
It was a stressful scene. Luckily, we got most of the residents out, and all of us at the bottom of the hill were able to do what we could to help those as they were coming down.
That's one of the residents, and as Jeff reported last hour, already reports of looting. Nice job, California. That is sick. DJT wants the Supreme Court to intervene in his New York Judge Mersham destruction of DJT case ahead of sentencing on Friday. It's an emergency relief request. Trump asked the High Court to temporarily block any further criminal proceedings in the state before he's inaugurated. Tuesday, DJT with a surprise press conference, simply outstanding.
We're approaching the dawn of America's golden age. It's going to be a golden age for America. We have things that nobody else has. We have more natural resources.
And how about a new name for the Gulf?
We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
J6 pardons coming up.
People that did some bad things were not prosecuted. You know, I see it all the time, and you see it too. People that were doing some bad things weren't prosecuted. And people that didn't even walk into the building are in jail right now. So we'll be looking at the whole thing, but I'll be making major pardons. Yes, please.
And how about this? One of his greatest critics, the longtime husband of The View, co-host Sunny Hostin, her husband, accused of federal insurance fraud. No way.
I think we need to find moral clarity. In this country.
Orthopedic surgeon Dr. Emmanuel Manny Hostin is among nearly 200 defendants named in one of the largest RICO cases ever filed in New York, and many of the others are accused of getting kickbacks by performing surgery and fraudulently billing a company that insures taxi companies and Uber and Lyft drivers. I wonder what she'll have to say about that. Members of the public are paying their respects to former President Jimmy Carter. A long line of people began filing past Carter's casket in the U.S. Capitol Rotunda Tuesday evening. The 39th president, who died Sunday at his home He didn't die on Sunday, did he? Yeah, this seems like a week ago Sunday. In Georgia, he'll lie in state at the Capitol until 7 in the morning on Thursday.
I recommend people do that. If you can ever have an opportunity to go see a president lying in state, that doesn't happen too often.
No, it doesn't.
So if you're in the area, go stand in line. That's pays your respects.
Yeah, you may have a chance in 6 months with the current president. Who knows? A recent rise in bird flu cases comes, maybe three, comes at the same time that the seasonal flu is spiking. Oh, what a shock there. Experts worry about what could happen if they combine. Baylor infectious disease expert Dr. Peter Hotez. God, he scares me to death. He says that that's unlikely. There is still, even though there is a possibility. Police in Aurora are looking for 2 men after a deadly shooting early yesterday. Investigators say the suspects entered an apartment on East Jewel at about 6:15 in the morning. They fought with the family inside. Shots were fired, and a 16-year-old girl died after being taken to the hospital. No one else was injured. Investigators are still trying to determine if there was a prior relationship between the suspects and the family. The Celtics beat the Nuggets last night. Final 118-106. It's 13 in Broomfield, 15 in Lone Tree, 17 in Denver. It's Wednesday. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
We're under a winter weather advisory through noon. It'll be mostly cloudy with periods of light snow, mainly here in the morning hours. Watch for slick roads. Any additional accumulations will be light. Highs only 20s. Be ready for a cold night tonight in the upper single digits. Watch for fog. Wednesday, sunny, 30s. Teens Wednesday night, mostly cloudy. We may see another chance of light snow again with another front during the day Thursday and continued cold. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Well, I'm going to call the Queen of Colorado. I think she's the Queen of Colorado.
Hell yeah.
Kathy Sabine.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what a storied career. She's loved by everybody I know.
Okay, I got to tell you this, okay, because Kathy's not on the list yet, okay, so we can't. It's not going to embarrass her totally yet. Not on. I got to do this, okay. Buddy of mine used to work in sports radio. People will know him. Bill Rogan used to be right here on KNUS. Yeah. Okay, Rogan was down at Channel 9, got that little tour thing, that you do, and you go around. Now, this wasn't a media tour. This is just the average. Hey, this is just Joe Sixpack showing up, and they do this at Channel 9. And one of the things they got to do is they got to watch the broadcast. Kathy was on the broadcast, and she did the weather. Now, again, this is before she joins us. So, shh. Okay. Now, he said they asked a couple of questions. Kathy did her thing, and then came back out afterwards and spent time with the kids and the families and talking to them. Said that she spent like an extra 20 minutes sitting there just being a human. Bill Rogan comes back and goes, I'm married, but I think I might be in love. It's like, she may be the nicest, most wonderful person that he's ever interacted with inside of media. Yeah, this is crazy. So yeah, she's going to Colorado.
My mom said the same thing about her, because my mom did sales for years and radio and television stuff. And Kathy Sabine would always get up and say hi and all that stuff. So I've heard that from multiple people.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. We're going to go talk to her in a second here now. So
I can't think of a better person to be the Grand Marshal of the 2025 National Western Stock Show Kickoff Parade than Kathy Sabine.
And look, she just
joins us on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Imagine that morning.
Oh my gosh. Hi guys. Good morning.
Hello.
Thank
Good morning.
you so much for having me. I am your tallest fan.
That is fantastic. Because I'm about like 5'0". So yeah, you absolutely are.
So
I don't know how tall you are. I'm your biggest fan.
Oh, we love it, Kathy. And this is a big deal. Tell us about what being the Grand Marshal of the Stock Show Parade is all about.
You guys, I'm so humbled and honored to be a part of this tradition, which goes for over 100 years in downtown Denver. I'm a cowgirl. I'm a barrel racer, a rodeo queen. I ride. I've got horses. I have been a competitor over the years. And so I love everything about, the National Western Stock Show. I just love it. And so being here in Colorado, I'm an animal girl, I'm a horse girl, I'm a cow girl. And so I've been a part of the National Western, hosting their junior livestock auction and, just anything else that they might need me to do, because, a lot of people on TV are afraid of horses. So, they're not going to go near a horse or a steer, and me, I'll ride a horse, I'll ride a steer, one time I rode an ostrich, whatever you need. Wait. And so when they called me and they were like, yeah, we have a question for you. And I said, well, of course I'll host, your junior livestock auction again. I've done it for like 25 years. I'm honored. They go, no, we have another question. And I said, what? And they said, we want you to be the Grand Marshal. And I was like, hello, do you have the right number and the right person? I was like, what?
Oh, that's great.
I was shocked. Yeah.
It's an incredible honor, but a worthy honor for you. So now my wife just bought 2 horses. It's our very first 2. We have a Morgan horse and a quarter horse. I had to ask her last night. I was like, okay, so what kind of horses are they again? Because she's the horse person. I'm just learning. I grew up in Cherry Hills. I now live out in Elizabeth. So I'm a walking Alan Jackson song. I went country. Well,
that's my husband. I can get him on a horse once a year if I put something to put a scotch on the saddle.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's like, yeah, no. When we got married 20 years ago, he's like, I'll build you a barn, and I am never going out there. And I said, well, thank you for the barn, but your wife works nights, so you be going out there every night and feeding them. And he loves them. And now they follow him around like dogs. And I mean, he gets it now. But in the beginning, terrified.
And what kind of horses do you have?
I had a Palomino, and now I've got a little kind of copper red quarter horse, and then I've got a tricolor paint.
Oh, so my wife loves the paints. Oh, they're beautiful.
Like the dream horse. Yeah, they're so much fun. And so I just kind of alternate between them and ride them. And if someone wants to ride with me, then, all the better.
Talking to Kathy Sabine, named the Grand Marshal of the 2025 National Western Stock Show Kickoff Parade. That's going to be tomorrow at noon downtown. So I got to go back to your barrel racing days. I love barrel racing. Yeah. It's some of my favorite rodeo sport. And from what I understand, the rider can choose to go left or right for the first turn. Is that right? So which way did you go?
It depends on the horse. Really? I went right. Yeah, because it kind of depends on the horse and which foot they like to lead with, and if they can, kind of switch leads when they're running. And a horse will usually kind of favor right or left. The horse will tell you more than I think you decide. Yeah,
I think that's incredibly insightful because the horse does have a personality and it is a partnership. Yeah. And so Kathy Sabine, Grand Marshal for the National Western Stock Show Parade that's happening tomorrow. Now, we all have pets, and we don't want to say that we have a favorite. But when you were that badass barrel racing queen, what was the favorite horse? What was the one that you were like, oh, yeah, if I could go back and grab this horse again, I would race over and over. Even today, you'd go back and race with that horse because you had such an understanding with that animal. Who's that horse? And describe it to us.
His name was Laddie. His name was Belbar Aladdin. And I grew up on Donner Summit in Lake Tahoe. And I used to, for a summer job as a teenager, exercise endurance horses. So people from the Bay Area in California would bring their horses up to elevation, and I would ride them and train them and get them accustomed to elevation. They would take these horses and do like 25 miles in a day, 50 miles in a day, 100 miles in a day, endurance competitions. And this particular horse was half quarter horse, half Arabian. So he had the speed, but he had the big quarter horse butt, so he could like really dig in and turn, on a dime. And he just was the most amazing horse. I got him when I was, I think, 14. He was green broke. So I finished the training on him myself, and we just bonded. I had him until he was 30. I took him to college. I was studying to be a veterinarian. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a car. I went to college with a horse and a bike.
Oh my God, that's great.
And Yeah, and I took that horse to school with me, and yeah, he was really, really special, and I miss him every day.
Oh, I bet. Now, you know that voice. That is none other than Kathy Sabine, Grand Marshal for the National Western Stock Show Parade. Also here, she's got a side gig where she does this weather on the station KUSA. You might have seen her stand up there and talk about the weather in front of the map. And now she's joining us here on Jeff and Bill Live. Now, talk to us about the secrets of barrel racing. There are always those little tricks, those little tips that you have. If someone in our audience is going out there and they see the barrel racers, what should they be looking for? How can they become an educated observer?
Well, you can watch how they start. I mean, to start, because the horse will kind of lunge forward. It's kind of like Michael Phelps when he jumps off the podium and he's swimming. You know what I mean? When if they have a longer body or a longer stride, that first leap into the gallop approaching the barrel is going to, add seconds or cut seconds off, kind of like a swimmer would. And then you just want to see, how quick can that horse skid to a stop and turn. And the scary thing when you're a barrel racer is, your knees. You want to keep your knees away from the barrel because that hurts. It hurts when you hit them. And if you tip them over, you get penalized.
Talking to Kathy Sabine, the Grand Marshal of the National Western Stock Show Kickoff Parade. Now, you've been active with 4-H and FFA programs as well, and you've helped host the Junior Livestock Auction. Talk about how important the National Western Stock Show is to young people, and especially why people in Colorado should take their kids to it.
Well, we need to teach our youngsters about agriculture, its importance, and just cowboys and the history of all of that. And the show Yellowstone, has gotten people interested in this lifestyle. But, people are afraid it's like a dying art. It's like something that's maybe not as popular or something that won't be here forever. So I feel like it's our responsibility to show kids, introduce them to agriculture and how Colorado is connected to that, and help them if they want to select a career in that field. And the National Western Stock Show supports the youth of Colorado and helps them get into college and gets those scholarships to go and study all of the just needed positions in the field of agriculture in Colorado. So it's so important. It's so fun. And I think for kids and families, it's such a bonding experience to go and see something up close and personal. It's nothing like you imagine. It's 100 times better. It's the sights, it's the smell, it's the excitement, it's live. You don't know what's going to happen. It's not recorded. They run the events, but you have individuals riding animals that have a mind of their own, and anything can happen. It is so exciting. It's a wonderful tradition, and there's so much history there to be learned and shared.
The National Western Stock Show Parade transforms Denver into the ultimate Western destination, starting with its parade, which is tomorrow, Thursday, January 9th at noon. It starts at Union Station and 17th Street. It ends at 17th and Glenarm. You can learn more information by going to nationalwestern.com, nationalwestern.com. And then this Saturday, the 11th, the National Western Stock Show kicks off for an absolutely fantastic few weeks of rodeo, of agriculture, of the Western way of life. You're not going to want to miss it. All of that available at nationalwestern.com. And it's been a true honor to talk with Kathy Sabine, Grand Marshal of the parade tomorrow. We'll look forward to seeing you out there tomorrow, and people can see you leading that parade.
Yes.
I'm beyond excited to lead off the parade with all the Longhorns in downtown Denver. It's one of the greatest honors of my life. And usually if you bring a meteorologist to a parade, you're going to get warm temperatures and sunshine. But, I don't know. Tomorrow, I got to get into work myself here and start working on the forecast because there is a chance for snow.
Yeah, you've got to fire up that weather machine because I hear the Biden administration has a weather machine that we can control stuff. So just make a phone call. I'm sure you get connections. Yes.
You can watch.
I don't know. I got Mother Nature on speed dial, but she doesn't always answer. She likes to remind me.
Isn't that just like a mom? Yeah.
Well, you can watch Kathy Sabine and her weather updates over at Channel 9 each and every day. Thank you so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill show. It's been a real pleasure.
Steph and Bill, thank you so much for having me on your show and helping get the word out about the wonderful, historic National Western Stock Show. And hopefully everybody will come down to the parade tomorrow and join us on the kickoff weekend coming up. It's going to be a year to remember. So much history and tradition. And let's hear it for the Cowboys and Cowgirls of Colorado. Come out and support them.
Here's here. Gosh, that was great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So much. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Well, for about 20 minutes there, the Jeff and Bill show became somewhat of a reputable show.
Yes,
Not
it
because
did.
of anything we do, but
No.
because Kathy Sabine joined
Yes,
us.
exactly. We all of a sudden had a reputation. We had people liking us, and that was very nice. I cannot tell you how happy the little kid inside of me was being able to talk to Kathy Sabine on there. That was really
She's
cool.
one of those, Ann Trujillo was the other one.
Yes,
At Channel 7,
yes,
where
yes,
you're
yes.
like, so Kathy Sabine started in 93.
Yeah. The other one for me would be Bertha Lynn. She'd be another one too
Yeah,
that throws
right.
back. Yeah.
But they don't age.
No.
It's amazing.
I don't know what she does. I don't know what
I
stuff
know.
does she wipe on her face. I age like on an hourly basis. I look 10 years older by the end of the show.
The text messengers would attribute that to Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. Yes, I get that a lot. Oh, that's so much fun.
I want to talk to you about my friends over at Advanced Hair Restoration. Look, if the last couple of years have taught us one thing, this New Year's is to value the things that we can control. And addressing hair loss is no exception. Our friends at Advanced Hair Restoration can reverse years or even decades of hair loss with their simple one-day treatment. Your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day, and your new hair is backed by the Advanced Hair Guarantee. It works for bald spots, receding hairlines, thinning hair, men, women, younger, wiser. Advanced Hair can address many different patterns of hair loss. Advanced Hair's top-rated physicians like Dr. Tanya Pauls have changed tens of thousands of people's lives, and now it's your turn. Schedule your free consultation today by calling 720-459-HAIR. And to celebrate the new year, get special financing, 250 free hair grafts, and $250 off. Value the things you can control and start regrowing your own natural hair today. That's 720-459-HAIR. Or become inspired with before and after pictures by visiting advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. So, Bill, this Saturday is the kickoff of the National Western Stock Show. So the reason we were talking to Kathy Sabine is not for a weather report, which she does a fine job on that. You can watch those over at Channel 9, but because she's the Grand Marshal of the parade. So the parade is tomorrow at noon, and this is where they bring all the big longhorns and Western wagons and horses down the middle of Denver. Okay. So if you want to be a part of that, it starts at noon, and it's right there downtown. I'll pull up the dates.
Yeah, now
looking
I
at
got a shout out to Breadman that had the suggestion that Kathy Sabine should Grand Marshal the parade riding an ox like Mongo in Blazing Saddles.
Sure
that's fantastic. That is I would pay good money to see Kathy Sabine, and the thing is, she could do it. You know that when she got up on top of that ox, the ox is going to be like,
and the ostrich.
Oh, yeah. If she can ride an ostrich, she can ride an ox. And how badass would she look doing that? That is fantastic.
It starts tomorrow, Thursday, January 9th at noon, Union Station and 17th Street. If you want more information, go to nationalwestern.com. So I'm going to be down a part of the National Western Stock Show because I love it so much. I love the ag community. I've really fallen in love with it as I've gotten older in life. We've got at any one time between 30 and 50 animals on our little ranch.
Yeah.
Dogs, cats, goats, chickens, horses, all that stuff. So it's a life that we live, and our kids are involved with 4-H. And I just really I want to give you a sense of just what one day, this Saturday, by the way, I'm going to take my family to the rodeo this Saturday at National Western Stock Show. Okay?
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, also, before you get into on the list of stuff, I did have to give a tip of the hat to you, Jeff. It was really, really nice when you were reaching out to the people of the stock show, because after your conversations with them, they sent me an email and wanted to know if I could get involved. They had based on the conversation with you, something they thought I would be perfect at. And they said they've got a slot open for me, everything. Yes, it's wonderful. Although then they mentioned rodeo clown. And I went, hey, and I'm going, and they said, but your partner talked about you being such a clown and that you're just, and you're good. And I'm like, wait, hang on. And then they said that your partner said that you'd even do without all the usual equipment.
I was going to say without the barrel to jump into.
Yes.
You just run out there with the bull.
Yes. And I'm like, okay. I said, oh gosh, I have something to do. All of a sudden my calendar's gotten so full, but I appreciate you at least reaching out and offering my services. I appreciate you, my friend.
That's good, Bill. All right. So this to just give you a sense of what one day, all right, this runs from January 11th through the 26th, National Western Stock Show, nationalwestern.com, right? Stock dog trials, okay, from backyard pets to Cowman's top assistant. These dogs truly are man's best friend. The National Western Stock Show takes pride in highlighting the relationship between these amazing animals and their humans. So these are the ones that actually guide cattle around, these dogs. You can go watch them in a trial for like winning an award as the best stock dog trial.
If anybody watched Babe, the pig movie, that's what it is.
That's it.
They're doing the Babe thing.
So that's just the first day. It keeps going. They got the Colorado Fiddle Championships.
We should be in that.
I would. I am so there. 9 a.m. this Saturday.
Yes.
Listen to this. It's the Colorado Old Time Fiddlers Association.
Oh, wow.
Does that sound fun?
That is fun. And I do appreciate there's a difference in playing the violin versus playing the fiddle. There's a different approach. There's a different fingering. There's a different sound. There's a whole bunch that is unique. And I love me a good fiddle player. Love it. Yeah.
They've got the Breeding Sheep Show. Okay, so young and old will be competing for the championship ribbons there. They've got petting zoos called the Farmyard Follies, where you can go and actually spend some time with little baby goats, sheep, and llamas.
Oh, that's so cool.
They've got the Catch a Calf Show, which I was talking to you about. 3,000 calves given to young ag enthusiasts involved with the 4-H program here.
And that's cool. And if people missed it, the kids come in and they grab a calf, they take it home, and it's gifted to them. They raise it, and they come back, they auction it off the next year, and get to keep all the proceeds.
Which I think they're going for about $700 a piece.
Dude. That's
So
amazing.
that's a nice little chunk of change for the kids.
Yeah,
right?
it is. And it's also, it teaches kids about the effort of hard work. It teaches them about the reward of hard work. It also teaches the kids about something so important in our society that we miss right now, the idea of delayed gratification. Doing something now to reap the rewards later. That is a skill you need in adulthood that too many kids are missing right now. And it's a wonderful program to teach the kids that idea behind delayed gratification. It's a fantastic program.
They got the rodeo at 11. They've also got rodeos throughout the day, but that's the first one on Saturday. They got a wool show where they can showcase like the finest wool and taking the wool off the sheep and all that stuff. They also have live music. Eric Golden Band will be playing. Then the Western Airs, Trick and Fancy Ropers are going to be riding. This is all, I haven't even got to noon yet on Saturday. Then you have the Stock Dog Trials. Again, you have a stick horse rodeo, Bill.
No, I could do that. I had me a stick horse. I did that. I could do those. Oh my God, yes.
Kids have the opportunity to create their own pint-sized rodeo as they hop around on the stick.
Okay. Before I was thinking that we should introduce the fiddle championships. No, we got to do the stick thing. Because you know that if they put us up there introducing and doing that one, you know I'm running the course of the stick horse.
Yep.
I have no shame. I have no shame. And I will be an absolute, it'll look like a small hippo trying to dance in Fantasia. It would be fantastic. Oh, I would make such a fool of myself.
And with balanced wall space, you're going to be moving around in ways you haven't.
I know. And if I hurt myself, they'd fix me right up. I'm okay.
They've got a miniature Hereford Junior show. They've got German breeds of I think that's cows.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know the names of some of these are so cool and so exotic and elaborate. They got folklore dancers. They've got more rodeo. They've got swing line dancing.
Oh, wow.
And country kick-ups. And then they close it off at 8 p.m. with another rodeo. So, I mean, that's just the first day. Then this thing runs all the way through the 26th, and they got different animals. So if you want to go for like the time when the goats are there, or the llamas are there, or the pigs are there, they all got different times for that. But take your kids. The thing you got to train and teach them is that our food doesn't come from Walmart.
Yes.
That's like the last stop before it goes home. It comes from ranchers and the ag community. That's what they learn at the National Western Stock
Yep,
Show.
and understand how important that is to Colorado and all of the Western states as far as our history, our heritage, and more importantly, our livelihood. There are so many farmers and ranchers that are working their asses off day in and day out to make sure they put food on their family table because they want to make sure that you and I can put food on our family table. Yeah, without them, we're sucking things through straws and doing weird stuff and trying to lick the bottoms of, things that we find on the ground.
Grasshoppers.
Yeah, it's not good. No, I'm not doing grasshoppers. I know people think I'm this big environmentalist. I'm not. No grasshoppers. Not even doing that. No, not doing that.
I want to talk to you about my friend Dan Kaplis and Dan Kaplis Law. Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Caplis, he's the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law, the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. He accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551. Or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS Law.com. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We've had a fantastic show. If you've missed any of it, go to 710knus.com to download the podcast. So I want to get to this originally, but Bill and I jumped right in on it.
Yeah, we did.
Jason Crow and I had an interesting moment yesterday.
Yes, the two of you had a moment because his name is Crow. Jason Crow. And he likes his martinis shaken, not stirred. So tell us about Jason's latest adventure into stroking his ego.
So
what did he do online?
Jason Crow writes why he's not supporting the Laken Riley Act, right? And he lists out his reasons for that. And I respond to that. Bro, you ignored your own constituents being tortured by illegal Venezuelan gangs.
Yeah.
Go back to your DC cocktail party. Now, not in a response to me, but it was so perfectly timed for my tweet.
As if you gave him an idea.
Right. So we all know that Jason Crow loves those DC cocktail parties. Loves them. It's where he spends his time. So while I'm responding to him, he is in a Twitter feud with Dinesh D'Souza, who features many of his movies on this program. So Dinesh D'Souza's responding when Jason Crow was talking about grabbing a pen to defend himself on January 6th. Dinesh calls Jason a wannabe James Bond.
Oh, jeez.
So while I'm tweeting, go back to your DC cocktail party, Dinesh is responding to, Jason Crow's responding to Dinesh, calling him a wannabe James Bond by taking a picture of himself at a DC cocktail party.
Holding a martini in, again, the tall one with a stem and no ice, 2 olives, which again.
So the comments are amazing on that picture.
I bet.
All right. Like, this is the last thing a young intern sees.
Oh. Ouch. That is really funny. Ow, though.
Fire. All right. So this picture, this selfie of Jason Crow holding a martini with a tall martini glass and olives in it looks like a perfect, in my mind, perfect Tinder profile picture.
Yes. And it is. It's those that, if you're scrolling by the dating sites, it's the guy that's looking at you like, how you doing? That's what it is. He's pulling the Joey from Friends. How you doing? Yeah, that's exactly it.
I went and made a very fake Tinder profile using a very real picture of Jason Crow.
So
on this fake Tinder profile, I listed his occupation.
Yes.
As January 6th hero.
That's so good.
That's so good. To point out to the constituents of the district, he lives in Washington, D.C., which is 1,600 miles away from here.
Yes. Quite away. That's why when things were going on with the Venezuelan gangs here in our city and inside of his district, he said we were just using mean words. That was it. It wasn't the people walking around with guns inside the facility. It wasn't the people that we talked to down there that said they were dealing with this type of an issue. He said it was the mean words. The mean words were causing the problem.
So if you want to see my very fake Tinder profile of a very real picture of Jason Crow, go to x.com/Jeff Hunt and have some fun with there. It would be a real shame if that went viral. All right. Look, are you going to start the new year dealing with the same old joint pain, losing sleep, not able to take walks or do what you love? Don't do it. Take action now and get the pain relief you deserve for 2025. Call QC Kinetics and say goodbye to shoulder and back pain. QC Kinetics local medical professionals, they're waiting for you. Their advanced protocols in what's called regenerative medicine, have helped tens of thousands of people. This is where they draw out some blood, spin it, get the plasma, put it back in, and it heals your body. Your own body heals it, and it doesn't require any more steroid shots, surgery, any downtime, none of that stuff. It's amazing what they've been able to do. They use the healing properties of your own body to attack the root causes of your pain, revitalizing your joints so you can move again. We've all been told if you've been told surgery is your best and only option, at least get a second opinion. Find out if all-natural regenerative medicine is right for you. Call QC Kinetics. The consultation's free, and you can use your HSA and FSA dollars. Live your best life in 2025. Get started now. Go to 303-900-8986. 303-900-8986. They've got locations in Aurora, Superior, Highlands Ranch, and the Springs. Joel in our office uses them. He's playing more golf than he ever has his entire life.
That's great.
Isn't that great? So
that's fantastic.
It is actually working.
Yeah, and maybe perhaps after Jason Crow hurt himself by bending over backwards to pat himself on the back. That he looks so cool. Maybe he can go there and have his back feel better. Just a suggestion. I'm trying to be helpful. That's what we try to do here on the show. We're helpful. Yes.
Go see the very scary picture of Jason Crow and his martini glass at x.com/Jeff Hunt. All right. Thank you to Kathy Sabine.
Yes, thank you.
Making this show much more esteemed.
Yes. I bring the level down so much she raised it. It's great.
All right. Listen to the podcast at 710knus.com. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
We are Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.